Imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it, especially if you love the movies?
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, Imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your evangelist of the imagination, and of course, the as-yet undefined existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am Robcasting at you. You members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community, you imagination connoisseurs who have been with this, the greatest community on YouTube for now, 789 episodes. That means, wow, in 11 days, I better have a good show for you all. Hope to. Think I will. Now, I don't think it's any secret, since I've been banging on about it on the interwebs, at least on, since Collider Heroes episode 6 in April of 2015, my love of the character of Moon Knight, the Marvel Comics Moon Knight. Well, it's well known. I love Moon Knight. Now, here's the thing, though. People are always going like, Rob, I just don't know anything about Moon Knight. What? He's been in animated shows and video games and comics. I just don't know. Okay. Here's the problem with the character of Moon Knight. Everyone's always tried to change him. I mean, there is no one iteration of Moon Knight. Now, in my mind, the very first volume 1 of Moon Knight is the iteration I fell in love with. My friend Shade Roop gave me I want to say the first 30 issues of Moon Knight. So Moon Knight was actually introduced in 1975 in the pages of the comic Werewolf by Night. So by association, Moon Knight was a supernatural character, but not really defined. Like, people were like, well, what is this character? We didn't really know. And then he was a backup in the pages of the Hulk magazine. And Moon Knight was drawn by the superlative Bill Sienkiewicz, one of, to this day, my favorite comic book artists of all time. Now, even Bill Sienkiewicz, who, by the way, I've interviewed on this channel, great, if I do say so myself, a great 2-hour interview I've done in the past. Check it out, because Bill Sienkiewicz is a wonderful guy and an amazing talent. But Moon Knight, I would say, of all the superheroes, the comic superheroes in the Marvel pantheon, he's very iterative. He's been changed and altered and it's kind of a strange. I mean, Moon Knight is kind of, I will admit it, he's kind of a strange character. And I will flat out admit, I'll just say that as I realized I forgot to pull up all these Moon Knight graphics I pulled down for this show. So Moon Knight is a in wow. And the Moon Knight that I loved in the thumbnail, this kind of reminds me, it's not Bill Sienkiewicz art, but this is the Moon Knight that I really kind of loved. And for those of you who don't know, Moon Knight originally began, I mean, as I said, he was kind of undefined in the pages of Werewolf by Night in 1975, but in the first, so Moon Knight has an interesting place in Marvel history. Normally, up until the very early 80s, you would buy comic books on spindle racks in 7-Elevens or drugstores, and you go around and you pull them out and they're stacked up or whatever. But because there were comic book stores that arose in the 70s and early 80s, they created what was called the direct sale market, which means that comic book stores would be the first line of defense, or whatever, the first place to get comic books. And what they would do with that is that Marvel began, like both Marvel and DC had direct sale only comics, which were not defined by the Comics Code Authority. They could do whatever they want. They could heighten up the violence, or they could make them more adult, or whatever. So Marvel had 3 comic book series that became direct sale. They were on the spindle racks in drugstores and 7-Elevens, and then they made them direct sale only. And Moon Knight was one of the first 3 of those comics. The others were Micronauts, Kazar, and Moon Knight, because they were more adult in content, or they didn't have to be beholden to the Comics Code Authority, which was like the Hays Code but for comics. So this is a big deal. And my friend Shade gave me, I want to say, the first 30 issues of Moon Knight, and I was like, wow. And so the first volume of Moon Knight was written by the great Doug Mensch, and it was drawn by Bill Sienkiewicz. Now, Bill Sienkiewicz, again, one of my favorite comic artists. He went on to do things like Elektra Assassin. He did The New Mutants. His style was very abstract. It was wild and crazy. And yet, when he first started drawing Volume 1, Issue 1 of Moon Knight, he was criticized as a Neil Adams clone. A lot of his work was very redolent of what Neil Adams had been doing with the Batman in the 70s. And they weren't necessarily wrong. And Bill Sienkiewicz will be the first to admit it. He was emulating other comic book artists. But if you look at his tenure on Moon Knight, which lasted 30 issues, you can watch an artist going from emulating one style to developing his own style. And by the time he ended his tenure on Moon Knight and moved over to New Mutants, when he did the famous Demon Bear storyline, it was mind-blowing. I mean, his work, his abstractions, and then if you look at the way he drew the Kingpin and things like Elektra Assassin, his work, superlative, amazing. But for me, when I fell in love with the character, Moon Knight was a mercenary, Mark Spector, who was like the major domo, or the second in command of a guy named Bushman. And they were mercenaries in Africa, and they plundered things, archaeological digs, whatever. This is pre-Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Mark Spector was left for dead because of various plot machinations, and he was left for dead by Bushman, and may or may not have been revived in a Egyptian tomb by Khonshu, the god of the moon, the Egyptian god of the moon. And so Moon Knight was born, and Mark Spector relocated to New York a la Batman and recreated himself as Stephen Grant, billionaire playboy. And then he was also Mark Spector, but no one knew that. And then he created another persona for himself, Jake Lockley, cab driver, so he could keep his nose to the grindstone. And then, of course, Moon Knight, his superhero persona that was a reflection of Khonshu, and he may or may not be a reincarnation of the Egyptian god of the moon. But you know what? Before I get into... Well, I found an article that I thought was worthy from August 25th, 2019, from Den of Geek, written by Mark Buxton. And I figured, let's share it with you now. So if you don't know anything about Moon Knight, this is a pretty good article. So I'm going to read it. Since Moon Knight was created by Doug Mensch and Don Perlin in 1975's Werewolf by Night 32, the Fist of Khonshu has been a fixture of the Marvel Universe. Through it all, Mark Spector has swapped identities, costumes, and supporting casts. But the one motif that has stayed constant with Moon Knight is the very thing that sets him apart from Batman and other caped Avengers. He suffers from severe mental health issues, but still fights for justice, and it has made the character unique in Marvel's pantheon. Now, I just want to point out that this came later. When Moon Knight was established in that first volume, he had these different identities, but he had yet to suffer from dissociative identity disorder. And I have to say, full disclosure, when I was a senior in high school, my first crack at screenwriting was writing a Moon Knight screenplay for Carol Penke's class. It was terrible. But what I had done was I took the Moon Knight origin as detailed in Moon Knight 1 and combined it with the Black Spectre, the double issue storyline in Moon Knight 25, and I had tried to write a screenplay based on those two issues, which, by the way, are still great issues. My screenplay, I wish I had a copy of it. The computers weren't around then. It was fucking terrible. It was terrible. It wasn't good, but it was the first time I ever tried to write a screenplay, just so you know. But back then, Moon Knight had alter egos and different identities, but he didn't suffer from mental illness. This came later, but it was a logical extension of where Moon Knight was at. So, anyway, to go on. That's all... Oh, hang on. There have been a number of talented creators that tried to find the key to Moon Knight's publishing success, but few have ever really managed to bring Moon Knight to mainstream success. Now, I just want to point out that Moon Knight, the Bill Sienkiewicz, Doug Mensch run on Moon Knight was really successful. It was the first of 3 direct sale only comics. People loved it. I mean, it was a big deal. And for me, total disclosure, I actually took, there was a very film noir quality to Moon Knight that I loved because I had seen so many noir films. And when I was in high school, there was a character in the first run of Moon Knight called Stained Glass Scarlet. And very, very much a femme fatale in the film noir mold. Loved it. And I actually took that comic to school to Carol Penke, the teacher. She was so smart, and I had such a crush on her. And I wanted her to like me, so she would diss on comic books, and so I took this comic, and I'm like, Carol, you gotta read this, and she read it, and in a soul crushing assessment of the comic, she said, "Well, I understand why you like this, but you understand, they're just tropes, they're just film noir tropes," and I was like, really? I was crushed. The one teacher I had a crush on my second grade teacher, but this was high school, man. I was like, oh, I felt bad. Carol Penke, if you're still around, I remember you. You were a great teacher. I loved you. Anyway, so let's go on. So here is an image. Here's a frame of Werewolf by Night back in the 1975. You haven't a chance against Moon Knight, monster. For the harder you fight, the quicker you die. And first of all, I don't know about the practicalities of a superhero fighting in the night wearing an all-white suit, but all right. The early days. Mark Spector was first introduced as a foil to Marvel's Werewolf by Night. Moon Knight's unique look made him popular with fans, so Marvel gave the vigilante his own tryout in the pages of Marvel Spotlight, which I have, and I will get slapped. To help distinguish the character from Batman, Doug Moench and Don Perlin tried to put some more distance between Mark Spector and Bruce Wayne. Yes, Moon Knight had the European man Friday in his right-hand man Frenchie. The palatial mansion, the billions, the women, the gadgets, but he also had a very different method of fighting crime. Those early stories not only gave readers their first glimpse into the man behind the cowl, they revealed that Spector would also operate as a cab driver named Jake Lockley in order to get closer to the criminal elements Moon Knight was sworn to stop. Spector also masqueraded as Stephen Grant, millionaire playboy. This playing with identities would become a Moon Knight staple, as Spector would bounce around between the three, trying to find a balance and meaning through any of them. Soon, Frenchie would be fleshed out to a much more than an Alfred clone, and Moon Knight's constant love, Marlene Alraine, would be introduced to give the hero a diverse cast of players for the dramas ahead. After Marvel Spotlight, Moon Knight popped around the Marvel Universe before settling into a solo feature in the back of Hulk magazine and his own black and white one-shot feature in Marvel Preview. These issues' claim to fame is the absolutely stunning art by some of the industry's finest talents. The magazine appearances began the long association between Moon Knight and Bill Sienkiewicz, the artist that would visually inform the character for a long time to come. This, of course, this image is the cover of Moon Knight 1, the first solo series. The first Moon Knight solo series finally revealed Mark Spector's origin, further removing the character from accusations that the Silver Cape Warrior was simply a Batman clone. The monthly revealed Spector's background as a soldier of fortune in Egypt who was left to die at the hands of his brutal enemy, the Bushmen. The god Khonshu promised to bring Spector back to life if the soldier would become an avatar of vengeance in Khonshu's name. Spector agreed and, wrapped in Khonshu's silver raiment, eventually found and defeated Bushmen in single combat. The series also revealed that Spector was the son of a rabbi. So now fans had a pagan god blessing the son of a Jewish holy man with magical life to serve as a sort of golem against crime. And me, being an adopted Jew, I was adopted into a Jewish family and raised in the Jewish tradition, went to Sunday school, learned Hebrew, was bar mitzvahed, all that. Perhaps that was something I identified with because, well, Mark Spector was a real Jew, and I was a Jew that, I actually found out when I was 29, I was born to a Jewish mother, but I didn't know it at the time. So I did identify with Moon Knight. Loved the character. Loved it so much. But more especially, I loved Sienkiewicz's art. It was fantastic. Loved it. And I love the idea of the golem. Jewish folktales, Jewish Yiddish folktales are amazing. With the Yeni Welt, the Lamed Vav, Asmodeus, Lilith. Great, scary shit. The idea of a minion forming, being able to resurrect a man of clay to fight against the pogroms against the Jewish people. I love this shit. I'm like, fuck, I love being a Jew. It's awesome. But anyway, maybe that was an attraction I had to Moon Knight, but I can't say. I don't remember. Anyway, the series was a celebration of comics' sheer insanity. A chaotic melding of concepts and worlds, mythological gods combined with real-world religious dogma to create a hero like no other. At this point, Bill Sienkiewicz came into his own as an artist, as the book built up some critical cachet. Many of the adversaries in the book, such as Cyclone, Conqueror, Lord Randall, the Hatchet Man, Midnight Man, and the Committee, well, they failed to become anything more than one-off antagonists, although the book did introduce Stained Glass Scarlet, a femme fatale that should have, could have, would have become Moon Knight's Elektra. The historical importance of the title was the mood and tones that Moench, Sienkiewicz, and the company set, a more mature and brooding book that targeted the adult comic buyers of the newly minted direct sale market. So, I have to say that this for people, everyone's like, Rob, why do you love this character? This was the iteration of Moon Knight that I loved. This was it. I mean, to me, and to be honest, I'll flat out tell you, I have never loved Moon Knight more than I love the first 30 issues of the Doug Mensch, Bill Sienkiewicz Moon Knight. That to me is the definitive Moon Knight, and yet the character of Moon Knight, which I have followed, and Moon Knight has a new series coming out, and we will talk about how fucking bonkers it is in a minute. But I'm just going to delve further into Moon Knight. Moon Knight's second short-lived title abandoned the multiple identity angle and instead had the wealthy Mark Spector travel the world opening art galleries. While a roaming artistic vigilante does have a certain daring and originality, it wasn't the direction fans seemed to want. You know why? Because it wasn't good. The new series also saw alterations to Moon Knight's perfectly designed costume, adding busy visual elements such as gold braces, a belt, and a gigantic ankh. Yeah. And this is the problem. Everyone's like, well, we have to add our own imprimatur to the Moon Knight comic. I didn't like it. I have it. I've got issues of it and all that. I bought them all because I love Moon Knight. Moon Knight soon popped up in the pages of the West Coast Avengers, where the usually solo vigilante joined the team. Sadly, this alliance was marred by the fact that most of his run with the team, Spectre was possessed by the spirit of Khonshu. This moment created a rift between Moon Knight and the Avengers and also defined the character of Khonshu for years to come. He was no longer a magnanimous god, but a cruel puppet master that saw Spectre as a hapless servant. This violation further fractured Spectre's delicate psyche. Strangely, it was revealed that Khonshu possessed Spectre because it was the god who wanted to join the team and not the hero. I mean, we're so far removed from what I loved about the character. We're way down the rabbit hole. And it also shows that Moon Knight, which was pretty based in the real world, and the only idea was that, in my mind, what I loved about Moon Knight was he believed that the spirit of the moon, that Khonshu resurrected him. But in my mind, not really. That was his thing that he used. But then they weighed into that, and then Khonshu became much more, I mean, as you know, no, Khonshu's a real god possessing him, and it became a very different comic from the comic I loved in those first 30 issues. Moon Knight's longest series, Mark Spector Moon Knight, ran for 5 years, with some amazing stories by writers like Chuck Dixon and J.M. DeMatteis that saw the urban hero interact with the rest of the Marvel Universe like never before. The book returned Spector to his vigilante roots, with a healthy dose of street-level mysticism that made him famous in the early 80s. The series saw the return of Bushman, along with the introduction of teen sidekick Midnight. Probably not the best move for a character that was always being compared to Batman. The book fleshed out Spectre, Frenchie, Marlene, and even Khonshu, who was revealed to be a god of justice, not vengeance. Dixon and DeMatteis penned some of the best stories to ever grace a Moon Knight comic. Sadly, the excesses of the 90s were soon to trump solid storytelling, as the book was shoehorned into a number of crossovers like Acts of Vengeance and Infinity War. No, not that one. While countless guest stars almost pushed Moon Knight out of his own feature. Oddly enough, it was at this time that Moon Knight would also experience its greatest sales success when newcomer Stephen Platt took over the art chores. I gotta say, Stephen Platt, while I don't love him as much as I love Sienkiewicz, his detailed artwork was absolutely out of fucking control. It was amazing. The story was forgettable at best, but Platt's anatomy-bending style fit so perfectly into the image generation of comics that Moon Knight became one of the hottest titles on the market for a brief time. With Platt's final issue, this series that started off as one of Marvel's coolest titles devolved into a crossover-laden guest star fest that killed off Mark Spector. At this point, death was old hat for Moon Knight, who would not stay in the cold grave for long. Like all good mainstream superheroes, Moon Knight had to be resurrected at least once, and when he was, it was by returning creator Doug Moench, who brought the wonderful strangeness back to the character in 2 late 90s miniseries. Resurrection War and High Strangers were a return to Moon Knight's roots, jettisoning the baggage of the 90s sidekicks, adamantium suits, and guest star clutter. These stories were a breath of fresh air for fans wanting to get back to the pure and unapologetic weirdness that defined Moon Knight in the early days of the character. So, there you go. I mean, look at this artwork. That was some dope shit. The 2006 relaunch saw Marvel put a major marketing push behind the arrival of popular novelist Charlie Huston and megastar penciler David Finch. Marvel seemed to be determined this time to force Moon Knight to work as more than just a periphery character, and boy was it violent. While the book brought in many elements from the modern Marvel universe, it at times delved so much into gore and violence that it bordered on parody. Moon Knight had always been an edgy character, but in the first issue, he defeats a returned Bushman by carving his face off with one of his crescent moon darts. An increasingly broken and unstable Mark Spector began to view the removed visage as a spiritual guide, which he believed contained the spirit of Khonshu. So yes, Moon Knight carried around a hunk of rotting skin that he thought was a god. Makes the 4-personality thing seem like a Norman Rockwell painting. The series examined Moon Knight's role as the most unstable member of the Marvel pantheon of heroes and often brought in other Marvel heroes with the sole purpose of telling him he was batshit. Most importantly to Moon Knight history, the book retconned Mark Spector into a Gulf War soldier. Now, I'm not going to read any more of this. It's a great article. But, oops, didn't mean to do that. So anyway, Moon Knight has been, again, a very iterative character. He's been all over the place. And the problem with Moon Knight that I've had since I fell in love with that character was when I fell in love with him, he was a Batman clone or a derivation of Batman. I love that. I love what they did, a little different enough. But then they keep trying to change him to chase trends like the Bond franchise. In the 60s, Bond set trends like the original Moon Knight comic when it went direct sale. And then after that, even to this day, Moon Knight has chased trends. And what happened was with Moon Knight is then they, over the last, almost 20 years, but since the mid-aughts, Moon Knight has been altered into a character that suffers from dissociative identity disorder. I.e., he's nuts. Don't mean to offend anyone, but he's crazy. And he is disassociated or untethered from reality, which has allowed for some great storytelling. But if you look at where I fell in love with the character to where it is now, it's a very different vibe. Very different vibe. Now, they are making, obviously, they've made a Moon Knight TV series. And the MCU is adding Moon Knight to their pantheon of heroes. Now, this is a long way from my 1985 Moon Knight screenplay based on Moon Knight Volume 1 episode or issue 1 and issue 25. Very different. But I'm not going to lie. I'm excited. I've loved Moon Knight for 40 years. Actually, 40, well, I'd say 40 years because I got it after it was like 20 issues in. So 40 years. So Bill Sienkiewicz, one of my favorite comic artists, made this painting. This is the cover of the new issue of Empire magazine, my favorite film magazine, well, still being published, but it's been my favorite film magazine for 20 years. He did this special cover for subscribers only. Now, any of you UK viewers, if you have this, I will pay a premium if I can get a mint condition copy from you. Or if Empire is going to make this poster available, I really, really, really want to have this. I want to get it framed. Here is an image of Oscar Isaac in the costume. And you know, what I do love about this, because the series is clearly going to be an amalgamation of the Moon Knight character, I love the idea that this iteration of Moon Knight is a living mummy. I don't know. This appeals to me as a horror fan. I love this. Now, I thought this was the only iteration of Moon Knight, but later on, we have this iteration of Moon Knight, which became... This is the Mr. Knight version when he was in a suit. This came up in the 2010s. Well, so clearly we're getting both versions. And that's pretty dope. I have to say, okay, look, they're leaning heavily into the Moon Knight characterization that not my favorite, but I'm pretty excited about this. And what can I say? I mean, I love Moon Knight. I've loved Moon Knight for a long time, and there's just something about it, I don't know, that I love. But it really seems to me like this Moon Knight series is going to be interesting, different. And of course, in this issue of Empire magazine, Kevin Feige was interviewed. And since this came out, since word has come out of this, even Deadline and the Hollywood Reporter, Abby White, for their Heat Vision column, which if you're a geek, you have to read Hollywood Reporter's Heat Vision. Kevin Feige, this was in the Hollywood Reporter today. And by the way, they're just reporting on what Empire already printed. So it's a report on a report. So, but who cares? Hollywood Reporter, reported by Abby White, published today at 11:17 a.m. Pacific time, says Kevin Feige says Moon Knight will be loud and brutal. This is a different thing. Moon Knight is taking the Marvel Cinematic Universe in an even darker direction, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige says of the upcoming Disney Plus series. In a new interview with Empire magazine, Feige teases that Oscar Isaac's vigilante is physically brutal as a fighter, and that the show will mark a tonal shift from what has previously been released on the streaming service. Quote, "It's been fun to work with Disney Plus and see the boundaries shifting on what we're able to do," Kevin Feige told the magazine. "There are moments in the series when Moon Knight is wailing on another character, and it is loud and brutal, and the knee-jerk reaction is, we're going to pull back on this, right?" So that was the quote, and Hollywood Reporter felt that was something they needed to be reporting on. Look, I'm not going to lie. My love of Kevin Feige is boundless. I used to say 7 years ago when I was on Collider Heroes, he's the Lord and Savior of the comic book films. His love of Star Trek, especially The Next Generation, is well known. I'm a huge Kevin Feige fan. I was once told he really liked Free Enterprise. Hopefully I'll be able to remaster it and show it to him again, and he'll still like it. But I'm a huge Kevin Feige fan. I think what he's done, he's made the MCU, the most successful franchise in Hollywood and television history, and rightfully so. It's amazing. And now they're bringing Moon Knight in. I'm stoked. Now, in the idea of being iterative, changing the Moon Knight character, there was also news that dropped this week, 2 days ago, that I have to say, I'm like, wait, what? I mean, this is some crazy fucking shit. And I have to say, here is the new Moon Knight comic that has been announced. Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. Now, this is coming at us from Jonathan Hickman, who did the crazy Powers of X and the X-Men reboot, which, by the way, I really liked. A lot of people didn't, but Jonathan Hickman's written Fantastic Four. I'm a huge fan of him as a writer. This comes from Marvel itself. Last month, Marvel announced another hard-hitting series of tales told in a limited palette of black, white, and red. This time starring Moon Knight. Moon Knight Black, White, and Blood will feature stories by today's top creators, including acclaimed writer Jonathan Hickman and iconic artist Chris Bachalo, who, by the way, has worked for me. Together, these two brilliant comic talents will take readers, get this, listen to this, look at this image, and listen to this bonkers shit. Will take readers 6,000 years into the future to introduce an all-new hero who has taken over the Moon Knight mantle. This last living priest of Khonshu travels throughout distant galaxies to avenge his fallen god and master. Get your first look at the Moon Knight of the future in Chris Bachalo's early character sketches. Stay tuned for more news about Moon Knight Black, White, and Blood, hitting stands on April 14th. Now, I have to say, a lot of people, there have been people that have written in, they're like, oh my God, Rob, Moon Knight going 6,000 years in the future. Can you believe it? And I'm like, yeah, you know why? I'll tell you why. I'm a huge fan of Matt Wagner's Grendel. And if you love Grendel, the character, the Grendel force, the Grendel, if you read Grendel, what Matt Wagner did was Grendel kept moving the Grendel character, the Grendel force, the Grendel essence into the future and pushed the character into the future and had different iterations of Grendel. And it was really cool. So moving Moon Knight 6,000 years into the future, time keeps on slipping into the future. I don't care. I mean, I will buy that shit. Look, I have not been buying flippers for a long time. I've got my beloved, and as for I can't even, it's I have my Marvel Omnibus. They recently last year released a Marvel Omnibus of the original Moon Knight comics. You should get it because it's good. But anyway, I'm a huge Moon Knight fan. Very, very excited about all of this. Cannot wait. Now, will the show be good? Don't know. I love the fact that Oscar Isaac is playing the character, but I have to say that watching the trailer, while I thought the trailer was good, it was not the Moon Knight that I recognized. But I don't care, because Oscar Isaac can do no wrong in my work, or in my world. He was even great as Apocalypse, even though it's too short. But if you watch his performance, forget the fact that he looked like a Power Rangers villain. He was really good. And if you watch a movie called A Most Violent Year, the man kicks ass. So I think he's going to be a great Moon Knight. I can't wait to see the show. Will it be great? Don't know. I hope it is. Fingers are very crossed on this one. I really want to love Moon Knight. I mean, and again, what's not to love? I mean, I look at this. Here's the Mr. Knight character. Here's Oscar Isaac. Here's the Moon Knight character in costume. And, of course, here's Bill Sienkiewicz's, my favorite Moon Knight artist, 40 years later, with his signature in the bottom right there. Look at this. Come on, man. I mean, I want this as a poster. Please, Empire, can you sell me this as a giant poster? I want it so goddamn bad. Come on now. I want it. I want it. Anyway, I just love Moon Knight. I really do. I do. So, anyway, will Moon Knight be great? I can't say. I hope it's great. I really do, because I mean, again, I wrote a Moon Knight screenplay in 1985. That was 37 years ago. I am very, very excited about this series. I don't care where they go. Well, let's face it, Hot Toys. I mean, I've got 1/12 Mezco. There's been many action figures. I don't even collect 1/12. I've got a few. Moon Knight's one of them. It's a special edition. What can I say? I love Moon Knight. I hope it's great. I really do. Anyway, let's jump in. I have to say that I have a very special letter to read now. Now, many of you might have expected me to do a Midnight Metal this weekend, or a Midnight Meta, or Midnight Musings, which is the new show. Don't think that and Lael are off the hook. We will come back next week with the show, which is now called Midnight Musings. And we're going to start it at 9 p.m. Pacific time, so midnight Eastern time. That is going to be the new show. And hope you'll all love it. But this letter I'm going to read is a very special letter that comes from a very special man, a foundational member of the Post-Geek Singularity. And for those of you who've been here for any length of time, you know him, you love him. His name is Tom Jr. Jackson, Goof Emeritus. He's Professor Goof. He coined the phrase, "We are all goof people." So let me read a very special letter. It's long. Sit back. Put on, by the way, if you need to get some hankies, please do. I give it up to Tom Jr. Jackson. Hi, Rob. I am writing this letter because February 21st, 2022 will be the 10th anniversary of my kidney transplant. And in full Everyone Has a Story mode, I thought I would give you my account and experiences with dialysis and getting 2 kidney transplants. Now, I want you to know this took me a month and a half to write because I really wanted to remember the details just right. I know I've mentioned to you in the past about my transplant, so Rob, I hope this gives both yourself and many of the PGS members not only a glimpse into what I went through, but also may answer questions that you may have as well. I just want you to know that if it gets too technical, I'm sorry. I tried to write about some of the things as plain as I can, so now we shall take a trip through the mists of time as we begin the tale of my 2 kidney transplants. In 1999, when I was 24, I was diagnosed with kidney disease. My kidneys were in bad shape because when I was younger, I was on lithium from 1988 to 1995. The doctors who prescribed it thought it would help control my ADHD. In the summer of 1995, I got sick. I went to the doctor and they said it looked like my kidneys were just about to shut down, so they had me flush out my system of all the lithium. This would not have happened if the doctors who ordered me to have blood work would have ordered more. I went undiagnosed until I got sick. So I flushed it all out and everything was fine. Again, this was 1995. Cut back to 1999. I decided to go and get a checkup, and the doctor said I had some high blood pressure, so recommended that I get some blood work done. So I went and did just that. That first week of 2000, I got a call from the doctor, and he told me that the day he saw my kidneys weren't doing well, so into the hospital I went and had some tests done, and I was told my kidneys were shutting down and I most likely would have to go on dialysis. I went on dialysis. I was on hemodialysis, which is when a needle is used to extract the blood from my arm and filter and clean the blood of toxins and then return it to my body. I would go 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for 3 hours at 6 a.m. I chose to go so early in the morning so that I could get it over with and have the day to do whatever I wanted to. I was on that for 2.5 years. The doctors and nurses were kind to me and became friends with me as well. On September 14th, 2002, I received a kidney transplant. And that in itself is an interesting process. I got my kidney from a deceased donor and was in the hospital for a week. The first day or so, you're allowed to lay in bed, but the next day they try and get you out of bed and maybe try to get you to walk. It's a bit hard and painful for me at first because not only do you have IVs in you, but a catheter as well. Once you get a new kidney, you begin to urinate like crazy, and the reason for that is that your bladder is so small from not working for so long, you're constantly going. The doctor did an ultrasound to see how the kidney is working as well. On the last day, they took out the catheter. If this happens to you, all I can recommend is to take small sips of water or whatever, because you will be going a lot. I found I could not make it to the bathroom right away, and of course, even if your kidney or organ works well, there's always a small chance of rejection. The sooner they know about it, they can either fix the problem, or it could be something where you might need dialysis again and might have to wait for another transplant. In my case, when I was ready to go home, they recommended having a visiting nurse come by a few days a week, all right, to make sure things were going okay and to help with the bandages. When you're in this situation, you have to go get blood work 2 times a week for a certain period and visit the doctor maybe 3 weeks after you get out. If everything goes well, blood work goes to 2 times a month, and the doctor's appointments maybe go to 2 or 4 times apart, or 2 and 4 months apart. Then there are the meds. At first, it may seem like a lot, but over the course of time, some will either get tapered down or just discontinued, depending on how your blood work is looking. Recovery from a kidney transplant depends on 2 things. 1, that your blood work is looking good, and 2, you're taking your meds and going to all doctor appointments. Also, after you get your transplants, you're expected to write the donor family a letter, depending on if you received your kidney or other organ from a deceased person. There are guidelines they have for these kinds of letters. Stuff like you can only give your first name and the name of the organ you received, but you can't give your last name, hospital, or the date of your transplant. Once you've written that, then you send the letter to either your transplant coordinator or your local organ bank, and they will forward that to the donor family. If the family is either interested or ready to respond, the organ bank will let you know and forward the donor family's letter to you. This transplant I had in 2002 lasted me about 7 years. Ultimately, it started to fail on me, and again in 2007, maybe 2008, I was back on dialysis again. Lucky for me, when I went back on dialysis, I ended up sitting next to an older lady, and she and I got along so well, we would joke around or watch TV and comment about whatever the news of the day was. The nurses also told me that of all the patients that came through, I was a joy to have because I was easy to deal with, and I had such a good sense of humor, and that it was like an infection. During this time on dialysis, I ended up having a few medical issues. When on dialysis, you must watch your fluid intake. The doctors can't stress enough, and neither can I. I guess you can't drink. Well, I wish it was more alcoholic, but it's not. But hey, it's liquid. During this time, actually, pardon me, I ended up with some fluid buildup twice, and I was in the hospital 2 times, which actually weakened my heart a little bit. So I was taken off the transplant list for a while until I could build up my heart again. I started walking, and that helped. Then my calcium levels were getting high, and the doctor ended up having me get my parathyroid taken out. The parathyroid is in your neck, and they cut it out and look at it. And if some of it is savable, then they take the part that is good and they transplant it into your arm. If they need to operate again, they won't have to go back into your neck. Also, during this time, my fistula collapsed as well. I had this fistula since the first time I had dialysis, and they were surprised it still worked up until then. A fistula is when an artery and vein are tied together to create a super vein, so to speak. To fix this, I ended up having a graft put into my arm as well. A graft is like a mesh tube that acts as a vein. This last time, I was on dialysis for 5 years. and I received my new kidney transplant on February 21st, 2012. So far, things have been going well with my transplant. I'm going into my 5th month of recovery from the transplant, and it can only go uphill from here. That's my experience with dialysis and getting a kidney transplant, and here we are, now, 10 years later, and I am still kicking. And as of my last doctor appointment, which was a month ago, all is looking well with my kidney, and not only is it a miracle that I am still here, but I continue to live life the way I feel like it should be. Like it is the beginning of a new life and a new day. Hopefully, this has helped you and everyone in the Post-Geek singularity in some way or form. Thanks for letting me share a bit more of my story with you and the Post-Geek singularity. Tom Jr. Jackson. One of the things that I've enjoyed about this channel is this community, the people that have come here, the people that have written in, and the letters we get, and it is such a privilege to get to know you, all of you, and to hear the stories that you have to tell. But when, I've come to really adore Tom Jr. Jackson, and I don't know why, but the delight I took that one typo when he meant to write, "We are all good people," and instead he wrote, well, he didn't know, he didn't mean to write it. It came out as "We are all goof people." One of the most delightful for me. I mean, other people are like, well, Rob, why is that so? Because there's a whimsy in that idea. We are all goof people. Because we are. All of us. Anybody who watches me yammer away, we're all goof people. And Tom Jr. Jackson is a man I've come to adore, a friend. I didn't even know, I would never have met him if it wouldn't have been for this channel. And to have him share the fact that he feels he can share with everybody here, with the Post-Geek singularity, all the people that watch this channel, is an amazing testament, not to me, but to all of you, all of you imagination connoisseurs, and it makes it all worthwhile. So Tom, first of all, thank you so much, sir, for sharing this letter. And I would be remiss if I did not tell you, perhaps you might not know this, Tom, you might not, and all of you, I want you to listen to what I'm about to say, because it's really, really, really important. If you don't know, and you're not collectors of physical media, Kino Lorber has announced, I kid you not, that they are going to do a 4K remaster on disc of William Friedkin's superlative crime thriller based on Gerald Petrovich's book, To Live and Die in L.A., which came out November 1st of 1985. It is 37 years old. And I just want Tom Jr. Jackson, Goof Emeritus, I want him to know that it is coming out on 4K, hopefully this summer. We don't have a release date, but Tom, because you shared with us what you did and your heartfelt letter, I just thought you should know that, remember, you're still here, and the only reason you're still alive, let's face it, is so you can buy To Live and Die in LA in 4K. Just saying, in case you didn't know. It's true. And what more can I say? What more can I do? I got to jump over and see what y'all are saying. Because I don't know what you're saying. I mean, I look. Brian Hepburn. Brian Hepburn says, "Hi Rob, the video glitched and went out of sync." Well, I don't even know what to say to that. Did it? Did everyone like not go? Everyone's saying that I'm out of sync. Have I been out of sync this whole time? Like I'm trying to be all heartfelt and my entire. Is that why no one? What can I say anyway? Echo Based Network. I was supposed to be on their show tonight. I was out. I got waylaid. I apologize for not being there. Echo Based Network says Moon Knight looks sick. Hate we missed you tonight, but I'm sorry. But I love hearing the Moon Knight talk. Definitely going to be covering and watching the show. Keep up the good work and glad to see you back on Campy. Well, both Nick and the coach, I love Echo Based Network. I'm sorry I couldn't talk about Book of Boba Fett. I was not home. I thought it was going to be. I got a little waylaid. There's a lot of personal drama, like not personal, but drama in my own life, trying to let's talk about building the future. I don't know why I am out of sync. That's weird. That's a bummer. Tom Jr. Jackson said, Rob, you're out of sync and where's... Well, this is a Robservations episode. I was going to do our Midnight Musings with and Lael. Lael was busy. Couldn't do that. So what can I say? Is also here. She says, we are all goof people. We are all goof people, which I want to say thank you for all of that. Now, this is sort of interesting. I'm looking at things like I don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's very odd when you look at all this stuff and you look and I try and find, everyone, what can you say? I mean, I don't know what's going on. There's weirdness happening. There's weirdness. There's darkness on the edge of town. But on that note, everyone, this might be a short Robservations. It's not, I could always bring on, I could just, I don't know if she's busy, if she's watching right now. She could absolutely come on this episode of Robservations. I could send a link to her if she's watching, because, I want to talk to her about the Razor Crest unboxing video she did. So, I'll tell you what, if you're watching, I'm going to send you a link. If you want to come on the show, you are welcome to do so. And if you're there, I'll bring you on. If not, you don't have to. But if you're there, why not? We'll see. I'll send her the show link. And if she's not around, hey, I understand. But if you are, come on the show. 200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says, Rob, how do you feel about David Mack's upcoming book that is a crossover with his Vanguard series? Well, okay. What 200 Watt Studio is talking about, David Mack is one of my favorite Star Trek novelists. Clearly, as a matter of fact, in terms of the modern age, being somebody that has read, now we'll call this the Pocket Age or the Simon & Schuster Age or whatever they're going to call it now. This age began with Vonda McIntyre's The Entropy Effect in 1980 in the wake of Star Trek The Motion Picture. So 42 years of Star Trek. David Mack, I love. His Coda series ended it, but he's doing a crossover novel with Vanguard. I love his Vanguard series. I thought it was great. So if he wants to do it, that's dope. I'll read it. Why wouldn't I? Fantastic. But, and I love the Vanguard series. Hell, that should have been a TV show. But unfortunately, it's not. Although it should be. Look, as you know, I love my Star Trek novels. And I'll tell you, there's hundreds and hundreds of Star Trek novels. And the god-awful writing we get in Star Trek Discovery, which, by the way, it came back this week, and boy, wow. Picard is coming. I actually, because Doug Drexler is working on Picard, I want it to be good. I do. I don't have high hopes. And obviously the people that work on it, their work can be exemplary. And the show, for me, lives and dies on the writing. So I hope it's good. Like, I don't know if it's going to be good. I want it to be good. if it isn't, it's not my fault. I don't know what to say. I really don't know. Well, you know what? If won't come on the show, you know what? I'll throw it out. I used to have people here. Here is the link. If anyone wants to, no, hang on, too late now. She's here. She is here. Well, hello there. Hang on, I'm gonna wait. She can't hear. She can't hear what I'm saying. Wait, give me a minute. Hello there.
Hi.
How are you?
Are you having like some audio?
I have no idea. Am I weird? Is something weird happening?
Yeah, your voice is not in sync with your mouth. Like it's
That
yeah.
I have none. But I'm gonna put you in the show. Put you in, Coach. And we're going to talk about your Razor Crest review. So we'll see. I mean, heck, I don't know. I'm just going to put you in. Hopefully, you will. Again, it's such a weird. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if people can see us. I'm going to put you in. Hang on. And you're going to be on. You're going to be bigger than me. Because it's a whole different thing. And here you go. Ready? Are you ready? Hopefully it'll work.
I am ready. I myself together, Robert.
Wow. Well, you know her. You love her. She says RM, but come on. She's is here. Hello. So
Hello.
can we talk about, first of all, I'm digging your own YouTube channel.
You are?
Yeah. So first of all, let's talk about your YouTube channel. And first of all, why everyone there's 231 people here right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of those people subscribe to your channel, but all of them need to go subscribe to your channel right now. And what
Yes,
is your channel?
My channel is called Positive Fandom. It's 2 words and it's on YouTube. Positive Fandom.
Okay, everyone. You're on YouTube already. It does not take a lot to go to Positive Fandom. Click on it. Let's get above 1,000 subscribers. She needs 1,000 subscribers. She's almost halfway. She's more than halfway there.
Yeah.
So let's go subscribe to her right now. Click, hit, notice, whatever. Go do it. Do it now. Do it now.
Well, I just wanted to say, Robert, that I was very touched by Tom Jr. Jackson's letter.
Incredible.
And I just wanted to say, Tom, that we love you and you are a wonderful member in the PGS and have always been welcoming and kind to all the other members, always looking out for other people. And we really appreciate you. And we're glad that you are here with us now.
Oh, I mean, not to blow smoke up his ass, because Tom, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass, but I will say this. You are one of my favorite people in the world, and that you chose to write that kind of a heartfelt letter means the world to me, and I know it means the world to everybody who watches this channel. And it's one of the reasons I adore you, and it's also one of the reasons why we are all goof people.
We are all goof
We are
people,
all,
aren't
we are
Robert?
such goof people. Are we not goof people?
Absolutely. I mean, yes. And I think, Tom's exuberance and cheerfulness and support really has made a big difference in the community. And that's something else I'd like to thank him for.
Oh, my God. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. You're absolutely right. Now, Kamei Egan sends in the super chat. Kamei, I love this. Hi, Rob. I dig the show and came late to the chat, but how gorgeous do you think a hot toy of Moon Knight would be? Oh, the cape would look great. Well, Kamei, you probably might not have seen the news. Hot Toys announced that they have the Moon Knight license and they are making a hot toy. And let me just say, you know what? Pick your favorite pornographic online site and pick whatever your kink is and whatever you like to watch. Let me tell you, for me, it would not be as exciting or as stimulating as the idea of a hot toy Moon Knight figure. Let me just say,
Wow.
I don't think that anybody could make a toy that I am more excited about no matter where it goes, because it's going to go right into my Module case. I can't wait for a Hot Toy Moon Knight figure. I cannot wait. Now, I don't mean to oversell it, but in case you don't understand,
you're gonna meme me, Robert, for that.
I'm telling you,
You're gonna get memed.
meme the shit out of that, because my God, I can't wait. So, Kame Egan, I hope all I can say is, so excited. I can't wait. 200 Watt Studios sends in a very nice super chat and says, how will Q reconcile his original character from TNG, where he told Picard the universe is dangerous and doesn't care about feelings, with the modern Picard and Discovery trope of feelings over story? How will Q be in Picard? Well, 200 Watt Studio, as we all know, it'll be a complete bastardization of that character, and it'll all be stupid and dumb, and it'll be a series of Star Trek tropes that we'll all get angry about. But I'll tell you this. I'm going to have to watch, because you know what? Even now, hope springs eternal. I want it to be good. For as much as I hate, we are now in year year 13 of the Star Trek hostage crisis. Every time they put something else out, I'm like, maybe this time it'll be good. Maybe they'll let us out of the concentration camp. Please? No, that's a bad. That shouldn't make. That's, you know what? As a Jew, I shouldn't go that far. But it's bad. It's terrible, and I hate it.
It's more like Clockwork Orange type of thing, where they're forcing us to watch this stuff, and it feels like torture, and they're trying to condition us into liking it.
You know, I do want it to be good. I really, really do. But there are a few things I've hated in my life more than the Picard series. I thought it was a bastardization of everything Star Trek stood for. And, now they're copying about 20 other Star Trek episodes that are really good. So perhaps in their copying, we'll get something that's okay. But I'll watch it. I will watch it hoping it's going to be good. Now, let's talk about something that is good. You know what's good?
Yes.
Do you know what one of my favorite things that I watched today?
No, what is it?
I watched RM's unboxing of her HasLab's Razor Crest from The Mandalorian. And let me tell you, the way you stroked those engines, I was getting all hot and bothered, man. That is one great toy.
Yes, it is.
Now, I got to ask you, first of all, I mean, not that you're not already cute, and not to reduce you to some cute girl stereotype, but I have to say, the fact that you ordered the HasLab Razor Crest, I was like, wow, that was amazing. You're like the geek goddess of all time. So,
well, I'm a little surprised you didn't order it, Robert.
It's not my scale, babe.
Okay.
It's not my scale. I mean, but here's the thing. I love my big spaceships. I do. And I am not some scale queen. And you know what? After watching you pick that up and stroke those engines, I was like, that is a big, beefy hunk. Oh, come on. You know what? I didn't know it was that big. Look at that. It's is so one.
Big, Robert.
It's
so big.
So, okay, I watched your unboxing video of this, and I have to say, I mean, that is really beautiful. It's really great. I mean, look at the detail, look at the paint ops. Now, how long ago did you purchase that?
Almost 2 years ago.
Wow. And that is huge. Now, that is for the 3 3/4 figures, right? It's not, is it 6? It's not 12 scale. Is it a black?
I'm sorry?
It's not black series, is it? So it's not.
No.
But it's 3 3/4 figures.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But that is huge. I mean, that might very well be, in terms of classic Star Wars figure size, that might be the greatest Star Wars vehicle for 3 3/4 figures ever made.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of when my brother had the Millennium Falcon in the 80s. In how cool it looks.
But
this
that's more accurate. I mean, the weathering, the coloring, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't even believe I own this thing. I'm so happy. I can't even hold it. It's so heavy, Robert.
Well, that's what she said.
Um,
I've been waiting to hear that my whole life. I'm never going to hear that before I die, but all right. It's cool.
I love this this ship, and I'm just so happy I got it, Robert. This is maybe one of the best purchases that was ever made. My family bought it for me.
Wow.
For my birthday. So it's actually heavy.
Now, you did a 2-part video on your channel, right?
Yes, I did one video in the morning when I got the box, like when I received it. And then I did another one that's like almost 2 hours long of me looking at all the things that came along with it, like these carbonite
right. Which are great.
Here, this one's
and those are that was the video I watched, was the 1.5-hour video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really great.
More. I'm just so thrilled with it. There's it comes with like a little pram. It comes with a little Grogu, and there's a pram that he sits in. Someone was saying this is like a special metallic kind of.
Yeah, that's really cool.
For Grogu.
Yeah.
And then there's like a bag of weapons, because he's a Mandalorian and he has to have his weapons. So there's like this huge bag of all these weapons. I put my hand out so you can see.
Scooch it over a little, yeah, so we can. Oh, there, because it's put it in this. It's not quite in the center of the frame.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's all you can't tell. Well, hey, here. I
truly was not prepared for this, but
Oh, I know. Hang on, wait, hang on. Let me show you. So now you can see. You should be able to see. Well, you know what? Boy, this is all weird. Oh wait, hang on. Now you can see where you're at. There now.
Oh yeah,
there
it's
you go.
me. I'm a lot bigger here. There are all these pieces and some really cool specialty guns that come with this figure set. The other thing I was going to say is there was also you get a Jawa. He's in the old school looking.
No, wait. It comes in the packaging like that?
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
See, I was unclear about that. I'm like, was that something you had to get extra? Or was that just part of the HasLabs thing?
It was part of the HasLabs thing. I think they met their goal, so they gave everybody a.
So that was a perk.
Yeah, it is a perk.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, you can see the egg and the Jawa there with his weapons, which are probably some of Mando's weapons, but
it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. I'm just seeing if I can get the this front cover off, but
Dennis Mason says, "Hold them up longer, please." And
I will.
The Islamic says, "Does the cargo bay open?" It does open.
Yes, it does, and I'm going to open it.
Look at that.
There's Grogu. The little Grogu here.
I love that. That's very nice.
And there's also there's a Mandalorian figure in here. I just have to get him out of where he is. I have my hairpin back in a funny way so you guys see. Here's his jetpack.
Wow. So you get the Mandalorian with that. Was that always part of the thing? Was you were always going to get a Mandalorian, or was that part of the perks? Wow, and look at the paint ops in that. Look at that. Wow. That's impressive.
I don't remember if it was always part of the deal. What I can say is that, I'm happy that we got him. It would seem ridiculous if we didn't get that, but I would take the hatch off. There's like a top hatch of the Razor Crest, and one of the perks was this escape hatch. So this pops off. That pops off, and then there's an escape hatch here. This piece.
Wow,
And you
man.
can actually put a figure in there, like a three and a quarter. Yeah, maybe it's 3 1/4 figure that fits
Wow,
inside.
that's pretty. Now, how long did you have to wait to get that? Like almost 2 years from the time it was ordered for you, right?
Yeah, they kept extending the time that it was supposed to be arriving, and I was like, "Gee, I wonder when it's coming." And my mother was like, "Are you sure you placed the order?" And I'm like, "Yes, Mommy, I placed the order. I'm sure I placed it." At the so these are the hooks where these things go on
Right. Well,
to.
yeah. They hang from the. Wow.
They hang from the ceiling inside of the Razor Crest.
Wow, that's
So when
fucking dope. So let me ask you this. I mean,
yes.
that I would say this. What was it like? Was it $400? How much did that cost?
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was 400. So that's what it looks like inside.
Amazing. I would say that was definitely worth the money. Do you feel it was worth the money?
I think it's probably worth more in the $700 category.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Like, I mean, wow. And now you have light. There's no light in there. That's just a light coming in from the top, right? There's no LEDs.
I'm in my closet, so you can kind of see a little bit inside.
Wow, that's pretty dope. Man, if I had that when I was like 12 or 10, let's face it, 16, I mean, that's amazing. That is an amazing. Look at the paint tops on the back of the hull, like right up above the entryway. That's amazing. Wow, they did a really good job on that.
They really did. I mean, I can't even believe I own this thing.
I can't believe it. I know a girl who has a Razor Crest, so now I'm jealous she has a spaceship I don't have.
I'm really just so surprised you didn't order it.
I can't. I mean, I just don't do 3 3/4 anymore.
No, I understand.
I've got the Jazz Inc. Snowspeeder coming. I've got the Jazz Inc. Batwing coming from '89.
Oh yeah, that's going to be great.
I've got the Batmobile from '89 or a '66 coming. So it's like I got my Millennium Falcon cockpit. So.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. This panel also breaks free, but I'm not going to take it off.
But that is so cool. I mean, if I had that, I would hang it from the ceiling. I mean, it's so cool.
That's what I want to do. I do want to actually hang it from the ceiling, and I'll have to see if I can do that somehow. My mother is afraid that if I hang it from the ceiling, that it could fall and break, and then I'll be upset.
Well, it's fun. Hang on a second. Dax Jacobson in the chat says, "Rob, how would Rob's life have been different if he had this instead of some Trek crap when he was 16?" Rob. Okay, let me just say, when I was 16. I had already been getting Star Wars stuff for 6 years. Just so you know, I had everything. I had a twin pod cloud car. I had the Falcon. I had snow speeders. I had everything, including Star Trek stuff, Mego figures. When I was 16, you know what happened when I was 16?
No, what happened?
Return of the Jedi came out. I had every single. I even had Yak Face. I had every figure. It was all good.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
This thing is so heavy, Robert. It's like hard to hold it, but it's okay. Like
that's what she said. When I was 16, I also heard it's hard to hold it. I'm like, I know. Just let's go to warp speed. It's all good.
I'm so glad that I insisted on getting this.
Man, but that is really look at I love this surface detail. It's so cool.
Yeah. I was dying to show you this. That's why I was like, "Oh, I'm not going to get a chance to show you this tonight. It's too bad, But
well,
now I am.
I mean, I'm looking at you handle that, and I'm like, all right. That's fantastic. No, but that is really, it's really beautiful, and it's the scale. It's really well done, but it makes me sad they blew that shit up.
I know, right? God, gotta find another one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so cool. That is so cool. Look at that. Oh my God, it's so awesome. Well, now let me ask you this. Now that you have Tom Jr. Jackson is here, sends in a tip, says, and Rob, thanks for the kind words. I'm looking forward to modding Sunday morning brunch live for. It better not be why we're doing Let's Get Physical Media. Come on now.
No. It's at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. You're not even awake then.
No, I'm not. And by the way, I only bought one thing this week. I'm so behind because I'm trying to get a house. It's tough.
No.
difficult.
Everybody understands that. I mean, sometimes that's what happens. I kind of pinned my hair back, but take it out.
I like it.
On the back.
Well, it's good. Sunday morning brunch live for. I love that. I think it's great.
Yes. It's
The
a Sunday
Islamic,
morning
the Islamic. He points out. He says the weathering is thick. They did a great job. Weathering that ship. It's really good.
Yeah, it's incredible what they did.
Wow, and that came with it. The Razor Crest as well.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It actually has a little lid that you can put on to close up the egg if you want to keep him in the pod. Keep him safe and warm.
Incredible.
He doesn't like to get cold. We don't want to keep him cold. His little.
So cool. So cool. Really, really good.
There is a Mando. I just have to pop open the top, which I can't seem to do because I get butterfingers. Okay, I got it off. So this is the Mando figure that comes with it. And he does have a jetpack as well, as I showed you earlier.
Is that a cloth cape?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's that. They've really gone all out with this. Wow, man.
Yes, they have. And he can sit in the He can sit in the cockpit.
Oh, come on now.
I'm sorry, Robert. I couldn't help myself.
I know you can't.
Shiny armor moving on in, and like I can bring you in warm. I'm like, okay, bring me in warm.
Wow. I'm now I just got demonetized. It's all good. All good. I
have to just show you one more thing, Robert. Him sitting in the cockpit.
And clearly that's what she said. I wanted to just show you one more thing.
Oh, it's so heavy. I can't even. So you can see him sitting there in the cockpit, and it looks fantastic.
Wow, that's really. Wow, that's awesome. Wow, they did a really, really good job on that. That is really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. You can put Grogu in there too. You can put other figures in there, I guess, if you want.
Oh yeah, no, totally. But that's really cool. Wow, that's really great.
It's so much fun, Robert. And I showed it to my mother. And my mother was like, "It's so heavy," and I'm like, "I know."
It's not heavy. She's my daughter. No, that's really, really good. Now I feel bummed out. I'm like, man. I'll probably have to go get one on the secondary market for $1,500.
Yeah, I saw some of the prices. I saw them going for $1,000. That was
the thing is, it's really good, and people don't know how good they don't know how good it would be. So, they don't know. It's really cool.
I have to tell you, Robert, I've gotten so much pleasure from this Razor Crest waiting for it. Wanting it for so long. It might be the best purchase that I've ever made, like when it comes to a collectible for the franchise. I wasn't expecting to get this much joy out of it, and I am just so thrilled with it. So
I felt that about my wife. Just kidding. Just a joke. But no, I mean, but it's really cool. They've done it. Well, we live in an age where they can not only design things to be great. As a kid, I mean, one of the great displeasures of my life as an old, middle-aged, decrepit white man who has been rendered irrelevant in our modern culture. The fact is, I look around and I'm thinking, my God, the toys are so great. I mean, I wish we had such great licensed toys when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, they never wanted to make things look real. Like, that looks real. That toy has verisimilitude. The Razor Crest has verisimilitude, my God. I mean, look at that.
It really does.
But even the paint ops, I love the way it looks. The hull looks so cool. I mean, look at all that. You know how long it would take to paint, and that's a mass-produced item. It looks so good. Oh my god.
I don't know how many they sold. I mean, it must be in the thousands.
Well, they had to have made their. Well, let's check, shall we? Because we can.
What did it say on there?
Yeah. Well, doesn't it? Let's say it has lab. Razor
Some of the
Crest.
members in the chat have also ordered it, and I have to tell them this is the best thing I've ever received. HasLab really does a good job, in my opinion. And it's
I mean, totally.
that they
No,
couldn't
absolutely.
do the Rancor, but overall, I have to say that this is the most incredible thing I've ever received in the mail. Like, this is it's unbelievable. It was worth the $400. It's a substantial piece. It's very heavy.
Okay, well, you know what? Okay, here's what they say. Their target was they wanted 6,000 backers. They wanted 6,000 people to buy it. They ended up getting 28,115 backers.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is dope.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's completely worth it.
Agreed.
And I'm really glad I got it.
No, it's amazing. Now, since I have you here and we didn't talk about it, what did you think of the finale of the Book of Boba Fett? I am Boba Fett.
Well, I have to say that this has been a series that has thrown me for a loop. I wasn't expecting to experience the way they constructed the episodes.
Yeah.
The most interesting part is, as you know, I'm a Grogu super fan. I'm a Grogu super fan.
No, you?
Yes, I love
a
Grogu.
Grogu super fan? No.
Yes, I am. I love him. And if they asked me to take care of him, I would. The thing is, though, it felt too soon for him to go see Grogu, and I kind of felt like, well, why can't he stay with Luke and just kind of like go to school, and then Din could drop by on Father's Day and on holidays and things like that. But that's not how it worked out, and that's okay. But I still feel like it's a little too soon, and I want what's best for Grogu. I want him to be happy. I think he could still be happy by doing like maybe 5 years with Luke, and then kind of getting even better control over his amazing Jedi skills, because he's got the moves like Yoda now. He's got the moves like Yoda. He's hopping around, flying around, doing all this cool stuff. But I just want him to be ready for what they may encounter, because it's there. People are still going to try and hunt down Grogu, I imagine. Now, in regards to Boba Fett, it just was such a different version of Boba Fett that we got. And, he's very zen now. And, the best part of the show was when he and Din were in the street and they were fighting, and they were like, shooting at different people. And you could
that was my favorite thing. Why did they come down? Stay in the air. Why are you on the ground?
Yeah, it was.
Find some cover, guys. Cover.
Yes. And honestly, I think I heard another PGS member say that if they had just done that for the entire episode, we would have been happy. Yeah. That would have been like
yes. Yep.
an incredible episode. That's all we were asking for, was that. But sometimes it does feel like it's too much, too little, too late. Even for everything that's said and done, even the Reacher and has, romance in it for a show that is somewhat more violent than other shows. And I kind of want to talk to you about that, because you were talking about Moon Knight, and you were also talking about the fact that people, the criticism or the idea of focusing on violence in a show. I read an article the other day that it said that Reacher is a great show, but it's overly violent. And I thought to myself, you don't understand. Lee Child wrote this story because it is actually a violent story. Like it has violence in it. And I thought to myself,
I have to say, in the chat, there is an author that I'm a huge fan of that is visiting this chat, named Ray Garton.
Oh.
Now, so I'm a huge horror fan. and there was a movement in the 80s that was, the name of it was coined by David Scow, who I talk to every week, called splatter punk.
Oh yes.
And I have the actual original. I can't reach it because there's so much crap between me and my shelf. I have the first edition paperback novel of a book he wrote called Live Girls. And let me just say here, this does not do it justice. 2 words: vampire strippers.
Nice.
and here's the thing. I mean, if Todd Grimson's book Brand New Cherry Flavor, which I have the first edition hardcover right there, can get turned into a Netflix series, Ray Garton has written like 10 books. Like I actually have in my bookshelf, you can't see it, I have an entire Ray Garton hardcover shelf. And I'm looking at it like Methods of Madness. He actually sent me, I don't know if he remembers this, Sex, Violence in Hollywood, Slivers and Bone, Trade Secrets. I mean, I have an entire Ray Garton shelf. Like, somebody should like just hire Ray Garton and be like, bruh, if they can make Jack Reacher books, like, why don't they hire Ray Garton and just make Ray Garton books? Harlan Corbin, if they can make like, well, Harlan Corbin has a 14 book deal with Netflix. Look at that. I mean, that's amazing. I'm telling you, I want to make Live Girls. Maybe after Tango Shalom, which was recognized by UNESCO, now that the religions of the world think that I've produced a film, I want to make, after a Hasidic rabbi who consults with other religious leaders, I want to make a movie about vampire strippers in New Orleans or whatever. Let's do it. Come on, Ray. Let's do it. Come on the show right now.
It sounds like a plan.
Oh my God. Look at that. Now, that's amazing. It's amazing. By the way, Robert Tari sends in a super chat and says, "Hey, Robin, watch any new horror films? I'm looking for something cool. I just saw Archive 81. I watched the entire thing. Really good. Anything on Shudder you liked?" Okay. So Shudder announced what they've got coming on in April. I think it's in April. And they're showing both a movie called Martyrs and
Martyrs.
Inside. Now, let me just say, now forget the American remakes of both of these movies. They don't exist. If you want to have a fun night at home, I'm being facetious, but really, if you want to see something truly transgressive, and a lot of people might not agree with me, I would I don't even, you know what, it's funny because I don't necessarily think I can recommend this, but I would say this. Oh man, look at that. How cool is that? If you have Shudder, there is a French film called Martyrs. Now, I would suggest it's not fun. It's not like Freddy Krueger. Just watch it. Don't read anything about it. Don't do anything. Go in cold. And then, after it's over, you're going to want to slit your wrists. I'm telling you. And then, after that, and if you're still into the French horror vibe, watch Inside. Not the horrible American remake. I'm talking about the one with Betty Blue, Beatrice Daly herself. So, Martyrs and Inside. That's a fun night at the picture show, let me tell you. And report back.
Martyrs would be enough for me.
No, well, I mean, Martyrs, I have to say that Martyrs was one of the things that, God damn, that is so cool. God damn. I love it. Well, actually, Robert wants to know what's on streaming that's anything on Shudder I like. I don't even know what's airing on. I love Shudder, but what is airing on Shudder? I have to look because I don't know. I honestly don't know. Shudder movies. Okay.
Robert, are you doing Let's Get Physical Media tomorrow?
Yes, starting at 11 o'clock. Should I not?
Pacific Standard Time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, I'm looking at Shudder's movies. Trending. I'm just like, what? All I'm seeing, I'm not seeing what's on there. Shudder has so much great stuff on it. So, wait, here's Shudder's films. I'm going to go there and look. Do you have to, like, okay. As I'm looking at this, wow, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of old school stuff that I don't know. I'm like, wow, there is a lot of great stuff here. I'm
subscribed to Shudder, but I haven't looked in ages.
Shudder is awesome. I mean, they've got great stuff. Well, they have Paul Morrissey's Flesh for Frankenstein, which to know life you must first fuck death in the gallbladder. You have to watch that, but maybe not. They have The Wicker Man. I'd watch that.
Oh yeah,
Witchfinder General. Oh my God. Okay, first of all, okay, everybody, you want to know Connie? Oh wait, now Robert Tari, watch this movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on Shudder. It's called The Invitation. Okay, don't read anything about it. Take Bobby's word for this. Me being Bobby, you go watch The Invitation. Karen Kusama's The Invitation. Don't read about it. Don't go on the IMDb. Trust me. And by the way, if you don't like it, you come back at me and you say, Rob, that sucked. No, go watch The Invitation. Karen Kusama's The Invitation. Watch it. Do it now. Switchblade Sisters. Gotta watch that. Devil Times 5. Watch that if you're into old school. Brotherhood of the Wolf. Watch that. That's Exorcist 3. Okay, here's the thing. You want a great double feature? Here it is. The Invitation and Kill List. Don't read anything. If you read anything about them, it'll be ruined for you. Trust the Bobster. Watch The Invitation and Kill List. Just do that and understand we're talking peak verisimilitude here. Kill List and The Invitation. Oh my God, you know what else is on? My God, Shudder is the greatest thing ever. Okay. After The Invitation or Kill List, or before, watch the Japanese film The World of Kaneko. World of Kaneko. Watch The World of Kaneko. Again, don't read about it. That's more of a crime thriller, Tarantino-esque thing. It's fucked up shit. Watch The World of Kaneko. Don't read anything about it. Please don't. And if you really like fucked up weird shit, actually it's not that fucked up, just insanity that, by the way, there's a movie called The Visitor. I can't necessarily recommend it, but yeah, you can watch that, and by the way, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, if you haven't seen it.
I love that film.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Watch that. It's great. Wow, you know what? My God, I'm looking at this series of films. This Shudders. They got MS-45, which, by the way, again, can't necessarily recommend it for everyone, but if you like rape revenge films, MS-45 is great. Only if it's uncut. Don't know. I haven't looked into it.
Yeah, if you like I Spit on Your Grave, you like MS-45.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Can't recommend it. People are like, Rob Burnett told my daughter to watch MS-45. I'm canceled. Wow. You know what? I'm looking. I can't even begin to. I'm looking at what's on Shudder. Wow. This is some curated awesomeness. I gave you some looks. Connie Sang. Connie Sang says,
Connie.
The lovely Connie Sang, who I love to death. Connie Sang says, I can just picture Elizabeth's face as you talk about martyrs. Laugh out loud. Okay. So Elizabeth, my lovely lady, my girlfriend, my fiance, my future wife, Elizabeth, I tried to show her. She's like, show me a horror movie. Oh my God. She was traumatized by Martyrs 15 minutes in. She didn't even get to the bad part. And when I bring up Martyrs, she's like, she goes and she's apoplectic. It's like, oh my God, anaphylactic shock. I have to go and like, no, honey, it's going to be okay. It's terrible. No, it's actually kind of awesome. I have to tell you, Martyrs was the last time a movie made my jaw hit the floor.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, honestly, now here's the thing. You need to be a fan of erudite horror. You know, Connie might not have watched Martyrs, but she has become, I mean, her great sexual fantasy is Pinhead from the Hellraiser franchise, her Hell Priest. I mean, if Connie could be on the altar that the Hell Priest would sacrifice her in a state of sexual ecstasy, she'd probably be like, please do that. But on the other hand, I'm just going to say, Connie, well, maybe not, because Martyrs is the cinematic manifestation of what would happen to you if the Cenobites showed up. That's all I can say. Martyrs is unbelievable. And you know what? Some people might not work for them. I get it. But for me, I was like, wow, that movie, and I've seen it all. Martyrs was like, that's fucked up.
I mean, for me, the thing that I love about Hellraiser is how, it represents how people in the United States deny that they like sexuality and sex. And so, the idea of that husband going in there and trying to, have sex more or less, or want to have physical pleasure with this woman, and of course she's a demon, is fantastic because he's been holding it inside. But I just like the idea that you had to demonize sex in order for it to be acceptable, and make it into horror. It's just absolutely the best thing ever as far as I'm concerned. But
well, I'll tell you, look, I've always loved transgressive horror. And where I looked for it in the 80s was in literature, in books. I mean, I have, between the science fiction, I have all my dark fantasy novels. And it was funny because I don't know if Ray Garton is still in the chat, but one of the funny things, and we talked about this before. So Ray Garton wrote a book. By the way, I have a slipcase version from Dark Harvest up there. He wrote a book called Crucifix Autumn, which, by the way, you could actually, I think there's an interesting case to be made. You can make that movie now and not make it a period piece. You'd have to do some alterations, but it had a scene in it that it was censored. Like there a scene in like a book. Like some dude wrote some words and someone's like, "Oh my god, you can't." Like, okay, first of all, if anyone's gonna buy Ray Garton's splatterpunk fiction, like it's not like, well, it's not exactly like R.L. Stein's Goosebumps now, is it? Like, if I'm gonna buy some Ray Garton shit, I want some fucking sex, I want some violence, I want some hardcore shit. And Ray Garton never disappointed. So he wrote a book, and by the way, Crucifix Autumn might be one of the great titles of all time. Now, I can't speak to the paperback version because I don't buy some fucking bullshit paperback. If I can get a Dark Harvest, which God bless them, I mean, my night visions, I can actually reach up. Like, so, hang on, hold on. Sorry. So a lot of people don't know that I in the Robservatory, I have a lot of, I love hardcover books. And you can see, like, I look at this. So there used to be a company called Dark Harvest. That was they publish, it's called the Small Press. And now we have like Cemetery Dance and all this. So they put out a series of hardcover books that had great splatterpunk or horror authors in the 80s. This is their series Night Visions, and Stephen King, Robert McCammon. This is Night Visions 1. I mean, nice. Like, so I put bro darts on all my books, so this is Charles. No one. This audience that's watching this right now will never know Charles L. Grant, who, I mean, Charles L. Grant. If I could equate him to like a rock band when it came to horror, he'd be like the Eagles. Steve Rastic-Tem and Tanith Lee. And Alan Ryan, I mean, I adore the fact, I mean, I have to say, this is in mint condition. I'm just saying, it's mint. It's the slipcase version. And if you look at it, oh, wait, Night Visions 1, limited to 300 individually signed and numbered copies. This is number 116.
Wow.
I'm just saying, now, and I'm not, by the way, nobody thinks this is cool. But you know when this was published?
No.
In 1984.
Wow, it looks like brand new, Robert. You keep your things so
well, yes, because yes, it is. and my books. I mean, I've told people what happened to a lot of my hardcover books when I lost I lost about 1,000 of my dark fantasy signed books when they went into the storage locker. It was not good.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But you know, it's
not all. I didn't lose everything. So yeah.
I'm glad that you still have, you know, a substantial, and that's probably an understatement of a word for your collection, but a substantial collection still, Robert, that you share with us so much.
Yeah, well, wait till you see the new. If things change, it's going to be different. It's going to be. But Ray Garton, I would love to get Ray Garton to come on to this. He sent me his own books, and he's a guy that, like, in the 80s, if Ray Garton wrote a book, I'd like fucking buy that shit, and I'd be like, this is some fucked up shit, and I'm like, yeah. So
Ray Garton says, Rob, my editor, who was very pregnant when she read the manuscript, called me up after reading the cunnilingual abortion scene and yelled at me.
Since he brought it up, yes, there's a scene when a character, a demonic character, aborts a baby with his tongue. That was the scene, and people were not happy. Not happy. Yeah. So, oh, wait. So, Wraith X7, Elizabeth probably texted me going, when are we going to walk the dogs? But anyway, Wraith X7 says, Rob, if possible, could you do an interview with Moon Knight writer and co-creator Doug Bench? I'd love to. I would love to. That would be
amazing.
It'd be amazing. Amazing. Dieter Bastian from Saarbrücken, Deutschland. Now, I don't know if Dieter saw me wear his T-shirt that he sent me from Saarbrücken, Deutschland on the John Campea show this week, but I did. We will be on Let's Get Physical Media. Dieter says, Martyrs, what a nice Valentine's Day recommendation. Bruh. No. Elizabeth, years later, is still pummeling me for that. Don't do that. The lovely Connie Sang says, Rob, your recommendation... Okay, so I told Connie Sang, who I have great respect for, who I have great love for, I told her that the triptych of my favorite remakes, horror sci-fi remakes, are Philip Kaufman's 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers, John Carpenter's 1982 version of The Thing, and David Cronenberg's 1986 version of The Fly. Those three movies are three of my favorite remakes, and also just my favorite horror films, horror/sci-fi, but mostly horror of all time. So I told Connie, and we haven't talked about this. We haven't texted about this. I miss you, Connie. I do. So Connie says, Rob, your recommendations of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Thing, and The Fly really tested my physical reaction to goo. I'm ready for the next list. You know, though, when girls tell me about their physical reaction to goo, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll just leave that one for you.
It just makes us feel like we're going to throw up, especially The Fly. Like, there was a lot of regurgitation in that. Yes. Yes, there is. Gallows the Media says, Rob, always great to hear from you, but I've seen around. She's great regardless, but I'm curious of her background
if she's willing to say. Are you willing to say?
Well, I'm not quite sure when he says background, what does he mean?
Well, there's R2D2 behind your head.
Yes.
Oh, wait, that's not what I think he means.
It's R2 and Grogu.
Okay, but hang on. You have an academic background, kind of.
Yes, I do.
Well, can you share with us some of your bona fides?
Yes. Well, academically, I have a bachelor's degree in biology. I have a master's degree in biology. I have another master's degree in health administration. And I have over 100 credits in psychology and public health and graduate level credits. So that's my academic background. I've done extensive research internationally, have trained and taught graduate students internationally. That's just some of my background. And I used to report for electronic dance music venues on live events internationally as well. Yes. Absolutely.
Baby,
I missed it, Robert. I missed it.
Well, I mean, it's funny because, like, I feel like I look at people that do residences in Vegas.
Yes.
And there are a lot of great EDM DJs, and I'm like,
oh yeah, Diplo, Tiesto,
dude, Tiesto. I mean, I have like many Tiesto records, or pardon me.
Yes.
I think of records or albums, even though they're CD. I'm like looking over there. I'm like, I still have hundreds and hundreds of CDs. A lot of you are like, well, but I do. Tiesto. I've seen Tiesto. I saw Tiesto at right where they used to have the Oscars and stuff down by USC.
Wow.
It was that was an amazing. That was like 15 years ago. It was amazing.
That must have been a great show, though.
Ugh, it was unbelievable. I mean,
thank you for the kind words, Gallows the Media. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you to say that.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. I used to go to a lot of EDM shows. The last one I went to was Carpenter Brut from France, who he is like a John Carpenter homage, and I loved it, and I haven't been back. I mean, I used to go to so many EDM shows in LA, but not in the last 5 years. Carpenter Brut was the only one that I've been to. I'm sad.
Well, it's been a
then again, I'm old and close to death. So showing up at an EDM show with like a white beard and my shocking white hair, people look at me and like, I'm so old.
They're not surprised by this because there's a whole group of people over 50 who are raving, and they're doing a lot of research studies about why is it that people over 50 still want to rave and have a craving for raving. So,
good ecstasy is where it's at, which kids today haven't been able to get. You can't get good cocaine. You can't get good ecstasy. It's really bad.
You can get medicinal marijuana, Robert.
Not the same thing, as you well know. Great cocaine and great ecstasy. And by the way, if they legalize ecstasy, I'm the first person. But by the way, kids, remember, only once a month. Ecstasy is not like blow. You can't get gacked to the gills. You get one or maybe one half or one, depending on how pure it is, once a month. You got to get your serotonin levels back up. Just so you know, I've been evangelizing about the benefits of ecstasy for 20 years, and people should listen. They don't.
And they're talking about how it can help mental health.
Oh, yeah.
It has other applications for that. And I think it's something that definitely needs to be explored.
Well, they are. No, they declared it was legal until 86, and then they declared it a Schedule 1 narcotic because the kids were dancing with ecstasy. There's a reason for that.
True. It's true. Yes, I was a raver. If they had live shows on right now, I would be raving. And it's been a few years now. The last EDM event I went to was Tashimi in New York. He had a show, and I reported on it. I was a music journalist, more or less. For different music venues, and it was a great show, but I really miss going to those live events.
Me too. Swag props our friend Cal all the way across the pond from Indonesia says, I'm not one to recommend movies from my country, Malaysia. Pardon me, did I say Indonesia? I meant Malaysia. The North and South Island. Swag Props is South. He's Swag South Props from Malaysia. But I recently saw a Malaysian folk horror film called Ro, meaning soul, that blew my mind. If you like films like The Witch, which I do, you might want to give Ro a shout. It's streaming on Netflix. Oh my God, Swag Props. First of all, for those of you who don't know, Swag Props, Cal, and that's Swag, SWAKPROPS. He is a foundational member of this channel. Mm-hmm. But Swag Props is also an artist.
Yes.
And he creates... I can't even reach. He creates paper products from movies. And if you go to his Etsy store, Swag Props, he makes books, he makes maps, he makes Henry Jones's Grail Diary from Last Crusade. He makes amazing prop recreations that are so authentic. They're even better than the movies they come from. So go to his Etsy store and find out, because Swag Props is the fucking bomb diggity yo. I mean, his work is beyond exemplary. And if you want to find a great gift, or you want to get something for yourself, I mean, I feel bad because he sent me so many cool things. I'm like, oh my God.
But his work is camera ready, Robert. You could use it in a film.
It's beyond.
And you wouldn't even tell that it was not the original item. It looks absolutely 100% authentic.
It looks even better because he's basing his work off what's in the film.
Yes.
So he's not looking at like I want. Here's the thing. I don't like I like model starships. When people are like, well, I want to make it look like the actual prop. I'm like, why? If you're not making it look like how it looked in the movie, you're missing the point. Unless, of course, well, look, this is exactly like the prop, the way it looked before they shot it. I'm like, yeah, but they're making it. They're putting colors in that are supposed to change when you see it under lighting conditions. I hate that shit. I hate it.
And Lizzie Venus, I am a straight-edged raver. I am a straight-edged raver. I don't partake in drugs when I go raving. I do drink, but I'm not really into heavy drug use. But I'm not against anybody who does. That's their choice, and that's fine.
Well, here's the thing. I think you have to tailor your drug use to what you're seeing. I mean, here's the thing. I am a big fan of ecstasy. A big fan. The problem is, like with cocaine or any drug, you can't get... I haven't done drugs in almost 15 years. Why? Because drugs are bad.
Yeah.
And
recommend you test them now before you use them. That's how bad it's...
I don't trust... I used to know anybody who was going to give me a drug that... I don't trust anyone. Fentanyl, I mean, it has become so lame. There used to be, by the way, people, like I knew them, who were honorable about the drugs they sold. They're like, I sell good product. No longer. Kids, do not buy drugs from anybody. Don't trust anybody. No one. Do not buy drugs from them. Ever. Because we live in a world where no one will sell you good drugs. And that's sad. It's sad. I mean,
Lizzie Venus wants to know if either of us have seen All of Us Are Dead. I've seen some of it.
I have too. I've seen some of it. I like it. You know, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I find it strains a little credulity that it takes place in this one location. They do jump out of it occasionally, but I like it. You know, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. But I have to say that I think it's the final word on zombie fiction. You know?
Oh.
It's just that, like, my second favorite horror film of all time is the original Dawn of the Dead. I love it so much. But, you know, I look at All of Us Are Dead, and it's like, okay, you know, I get it. but are you going to add something new? The whole thing about zombie fiction or zombie movies, it's all about the downfall of civilization, the downfall of proper manners, really. And once you've done that, you can do variations on a theme. And All of Us Are Dead has interesting things to say about bullying. The first episode's really disturbing. I mean, but it's like, it's 13 episodes?
Yeah.
Is it 13 hours worth of new? It really is. And you're like, to me, and I haven't watched all of it, but I'm like, I've watched like 5 hours of it. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I get it. Now that's unfair to the filmmakers because I haven't seen all of it, but 13, you're not making Apocalypse Now, or The Deer Hunter or whatever. You're making, I'm in high school making a zombie thriller. So,
No, I understand. One other thing I wanted to say, Robert, about the Mandalorian kind of interjecting into the book of Boba Fett was that something that I noticed was that it felt rushed to me, and
just rushed.
Yeah, it felt rushed. It felt like the show was rushed when they put the Mandalorian in it. The parts with Grogu and Din, and I had kind of joked around and said that. I've ended relationships over people who tried to rush me, into into things. And I said, they're rushing me. I don't like this. But the other thing that I wanted to say.
They did not bring their finesse game. They just didn't.
No, because we've talked about this. Always go at a certain pace. And it's the same for a show that you're entertaining people with. The other thing I was going to say in regards to those back to tank dreams, I think you and I both know that men have certain dreams at night. And I just can't believe that every single dream that he had was about the Tusken Raiders. We know very well that men are dreaming different things when they go to sleep at night.
He didn't drink not one dream about Jennifer Beals as a Twi'lek.
Thank you.
I mean,
should have been. And they blew up the most beautiful woman in town. Like, this is crazy. Why would you do this?
Well, first of all, why would you even introduce that character? And here, look, I have to say flat out, I ultimately watching that show, we all love, here's the funny thing. We all love Star Wars. We love the iconography. We want to love it. Even I do. I mean, I love Star Wars. And when I'm watching Star Wars that is so unbelievably, let's face it, terrible, I'm both perplexed, annoyed, and angry. Because it's like, okay, you have postulated a scenario in the book of Boba Fett that we, as astute filmgoers, have seen in many different films. So we know how it's going to go. We know how, whether it's a Western or a gang film or whatever, I could give you 40 movies that you should look at before you, like the scenario of, okay, there's a crime, there's 3 crime families and this, whatever. Here's 40 movies to deal with this. When I watch Black Stanton standing out, we've got Black Stanton standing out in the middle of the street. I'm like, I look at this and I'm like, okay, you're stupid. Who's writing this? Why isn't Black Stanton in an area where he's standing in the same place, or perhaps lying down in a prone position on the roof with cover, where his gun is there, where he can make sure that anyone he can see, whether it's from the air or from the ground, he can take them out before they see him. I mean, this is strategy 101. And when I watch something like this and I'm seeing, why is it they think that we're dumb? Like, I don't think I've ever watched a science fiction TV show, and I really hate modern Star Trek, but the Book of Boba Fett was a show that was so dunderheaded and monumentally stupid. Like, when you watch Boba Fett crawl out of the Sarlacc and he has his armor on, and then literally he has the Slave One, like, going into the Sarlacc pit, like, dude. And all of us are watching this, every single person, whether you're 4 or fucking 40. You're watching this going, dude, I saw Return of the Jedi. I've even watched this show where the Jawas took your armor. Why the fuck do you think your armor is there? What? And why is your starship looking down when... And it's a thing. It's not because I'm a toxic fan. I'm just somebody who's an astute viewer, and what you're showing me is Z-grade bullshit that does not jibe. I honestly, I watch this. I'm like, this is Jon Favreau and Robert Rodriguez or whomever. I'm like, come on, guys, really? Like, why would you even put this pen to paper? Why would Boba Fett? We've already, in your own show, we've seen Boba Fett emerge from the Sarlacc with his armor. Why is he? If you go to the Sarlacc pit, why not drop one of your acoustic bombs, kill the motherfucker, and then once it's dead, go in. If you think the armor's there, then get it. Like, it's so. And when you watch this as a viewer, we all sit there and we're like, are we dumb? Are we stupid people?
No, but we are all goof people, Robert. We are
all goof people. It's true.
The other thing I wanted to say, and kind of like getting back to the idea of Moon Knight and you know, the need for some sort of violence, which kind of goes into Boba Fett. I feel that there was some kind of need for violence that was missing in the series. And if, let's say, if you didn't want it to be Boba who was doing it, then let someone do it in each episode. And I think that might have had a different impact on people who were expecting it to be somewhat of a more physically, you know, exerting kind of show where, you know, people were kind of getting offed, you know, and killed. And the stakes, you know, there was actually some sort of high stakes, in opposed to having the bomb, which was okay. The bomb was okay, but it didn't feel the same level of intensity for me. That bomb, you know, in Sanctuary of Innocent People who can't even defend themselves, you know, like it wasn't, why not bomb the palace? Why not bomb there? You know, have somewhat more of an aggressive place to bomb. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, a show like Reacher, and my jaw dropped to the ground when I saw that article where they had said it was unnecessarily violent. And I can't help but think, of you know what you're talking about with Moon Knight tonight, because some shows require this. You would never imagine that Reacher could accomplish his goals in the story, you know, by not using some level of violence. And well, I think that, you know, that's why they are action films. That's why they are action movies or series.
We live in a world that is increasingly up its own ass. And I'm sorry, these kids or these people that want to be talked, they're like, I will call anyone by whatever they want me to call them by. You tell me what you want me to call you by. I'll call you by that. But we live in a world where, as you're telling me what pronoun you're going to use, there is going to be somebody behind me that is going to blow your head off, that will not care about where our society. The Russians have encircled the Ukraine in 3 different positions. They're going to invade Ukraine. And we are still talking about pronouns. We live in a world where Americans are so far up their own navel gazing asses that we are so far removed. By the way, the draft will be instated. And everyone will bitch, and they will moan, and they will complain, and we'll say that, hey, have you not paid attention to your history? We now need people to step up and be a part of America. And the fact is, they will draft you. If you are 18 years old, you will get conscripted, and you will find out that your TikTok videos and your Facebook stories, they're all done. You're gonna go to fucking war. And no one gets this. I mean, we are living in a world where everybody has their head in the fucking clouds. And I'll tell you, if Russia will invade the Ukraine in the next couple of days, if they do, don't be surprised if the draft is reinstated, because this country is weak. We are weak. We are not we cannot lead, and if we want to lead, and we must lead, we have to reinstate the draft. I mean, and people are going to be like, well, what about my pronouns? Fuck off. No one cares. I don't care. No one cares. You guys are going to war. And by the way, I would, you know what? As a middle-aged white dude, I will enlist. If they will have me, if we go to war, I'll enlist. If they reinstate the draft, I'd love to go back into basic. I get my man boobs would be like all stretched out. I'd look good, man. I'd look like Brad Pitt once upon a time in Hollywood, standing on the roof. You know, but we're in a world where we all need to, like, and dare I say it, man up. And it's a crazy place we live in now, where I think people are completely disconnected from reality. And I don't know why did that happen? Why do people think that, my God, your TikTok videos or your Facebook stories or whatever, why are we so removed from the actual planet we live on? What happened?
Yeah, well, there's a number of things. I think that, you know, the current state of things did not help the situation of having to shelter in place for so long for
Right.
so many people. And the level of uncertainty that people have naturally can cause many people to feel distrustful towards one another now. You know, and it's widely publicized. Everything that you do wrong is recorded. You know, nobody wants to forgive anybody. And, you know, you have people even in their own families turning on one another, you know, over bullshit. So,
But isn't that
you know,
a luxury? Like the idea of bitching and moaning and complaining about people's ideals, that's a luxury. Wait until there's no power and no running water and no sanitation and nothing.
Yeah, but people complaining about ideals used to be something that people used to make fun of intellectuals, that they would do that and would say, oh, you're an intellectual, you know, you're talking about, you know, these theories, and, you know, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And people used to make fun of you if you even approached politics from that point of view, or asked you if you were going into politics, or is that what you're studying? Is that your work? You know, no one would ever assume that you were just sort of like an ordinary average American who is that deeply invested in a political stance. That would just be something that would be completely absurd even 20 years ago. So, you know, I think that people have become very invested in these ideas, which is fine. It's their choice. But, you know, it has starting to run their lives now, to a point where it's almost manipulating them. And, you know, it's unfortunate that that's happening. It's unfortunate.
I'm with you. T. Kane says, I saw Cursed and Cursed 3. Oh my God. Dancing with superhero madness. I want more. T. Kane, I've not seen those films, but has anyone seen Cursed and Cursed 3? I would ask, what happened to Cursed 2? I don't know. But are those Bollywood movies? You're saying Dancing with Superhero Madness, I want more. T. Kane, I'm all about that. Tell me more. Adrian Barraza sends a super chat in and says, hey, Rob, talking about horror movies, when do you think we can see another Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th? We saw Halloween's success lately. Do you think it can be replicated with Krueger, etc.? That is Adrian, that's a very good question. I would say this. We live in a different world. The only reason I would say, to answer the question, we just saw it with Scream. Now, Scream is not Halloween or Nightmare, but Halloween's the 70s, Nightmare's the 80s, Scream is the 90s. So we're seeing different variations on horror. Here's my thought. Horror is based on the time in which a society lives in. And the thing about, go back to Texas Chainsaw, Night of the Living Dead was 60s, Texas Chainsaw was 70s, Halloween was 70s too, but it was different. Texas Chainsaw was post-Vietnam, Halloween was me generation. And I would say this, horror is based on the time in which it's made. The problem that I have with all these movies, Halloween Kills or whatever, they have foregone what true horror is, and they've turned it into another just corporate product. And that's sad. And I think that until we come to grips with what true horror is based on the world we live in now, all we're going to do is, I mean, the idea that you want audiences to embrace. I love Jamie Lee Curtis. And Halloween was the very first video cassette I ever bought. My first piece of physical media in 1980. And now we're supposed to watch Halloween and Halloween Kills and be like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm sorry. Those movies, horror is a commentary on the world we live in today. Whether it's a period piece or not, the Halloween movies have they're bereft. They have nothing to say philosophically about the world we live in now. That's why I would say on Shudder, watch Karen Kusama's The Invitation, or watch the other movies I told you to watch, because horror is a product of its generation. This generation right now, there's a lot of great horror to be had. Titane being one of them.
Yes.
David Cronenberg's the Crimes of the Future that we're getting. Modern horror is bankrupt. There are very few people that know how to tell a modern horror story, because our modern horror is based on our world today, like all horror is. Titane, perfect example of great modern horror.
So good.
Perfect example.
So
and is it like, oh my God, it's Michael Myers with a knife?
No.
Dude, that's modern horror that was cool in 78 when Halloween came out. Does that play now? It does not. Ray Garton, if he's still in the chat, Ray Garton is a guy that had his finger on the pulse of horror. I mean, he was a guy that wrote real horror. And I'm not saying that it's not real, but my God, horror is a genre that is a reflection of its time. Our horror right now is so fucking bankrupt. It's so depressing. And it's one of my favorite genres. My God, please, anyone, send me a great horror novel to read, please. I have an entire room, a 2-car garage full of great horror novels, and I beg you, please send me one transgressive horror. And by the way, if you haven't read Clive Barker, if you haven't read The Damnation Game or Magica or The Great and Secret Show or The Books of Blood, fuck off. Don't send me any shit. Just oh my God, I love this. This R.L. Stein book is amazing. No, it's not. It's so not.
You
I'm
can't
waiting.
deny how satisfying it was to watch Titane from minute to minute, because you never knew what was going to happen next from minute to minute to
But
minute.
it was truly transgressive body horror, and it comes
wonderful.
that the director Julia D, or whatever, I can't pronounce the last name. I mean, Raw. I mean, she's a true visionary voice, and it was so fucked up. And I'm like, this is fucked up.
So
it was
good.
so. I mean, it didn't let me
But
down.
we are getting things like New Order, which was fantastic.
Fantastic.
And things of that order that were just absolutely spectacular from that director.
I wouldn't have bought New Order if it wasn't. By the way, he has a new movie out.
I know.
With Homeboy. What's his name? Come on. Reservoir Dogs. God damn it. Irish actor. Well, anyway, I want to see it. Guy drops out. He's like, I'm going to sit on the beach. My mom died, whatever. I'm going to do it. I mean,
did you watch Anna and Danny, the other one that the director from New Order? Did you watch it?
Yes, I did.
You did. So what did you
Yes.
think of it, Robert?
It gave me a hard on. Felt bad about it, but no.
That's what's so great about it, Robert. That's what's so great about it.
It's a really. I really liked it,
Yes.
and but here's the thing. It reminded me that why is it that America is a very immature country? We have the greatest democracy in the world, but we don't understand what it means to be human. We have a very hard time dealing with our fleshy existence on this planet. And that movie dealt with, I mean, it might be uncomfortable, but it dealt with things that are naturally occurring things. Like, it's so weird. And I'm not going to say why I related to it a little bit more than I might have, but I related to it, personally related to it.
Robert, we're going to have a conversation about this.
Yeah. I know. But I related to it in a specific way, and it was it's great. I wish I had it on Blu-ray. It's only available on DVD. So
right.
Adrian. Oh wait, no, he already said that. Hang on, I already said that. Adrian. Darth Plato says, "What about the Gamorreans, Rob? What were they even doing up there? Poor guys were shoved off and squealing all the way down. A moment of silence for the Gamorreans, and for that matter, the Book of Boba Fett series." I mean, again, okay, like, you watch two Gamorrean guards with an overwhelming force show up. Like, I honestly, I'm like, why aren't you guys hiding with sniper rifles? And when someone comes out, just like, the problem with the Book of Boba Fett, it was monumentally stupid. We've all watched, like, it should be Heat. It should be Goodfellas. It should be all of these things combined. Why are we watching? We all know what great crime thriller storytelling. We've watched Breaking Bad. We're watching Better Call Saul. The Book of Boba Fett should be Heat meets Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. And why that it's not, and they're giving us 4-year-olds are more sophisticated than the writing we ended up getting. Fennec Shan, in the last episode, you actually had to have her say exactly where everybody was and then cut to them. I mean, this is bad film school filmmaking. It was so frustrating. I wanted to punch myself in anger.
Well, Single Songwriter says, I've noticed everything Disney makes has nothing to do with a good story. It has everything to do with a new theme park ride, period.
But what they're doing is, what they don't understand, here's what corporate thinking is doing. What corporations don't understand, it's their punk rock anti-corporation characters that people love. If you're trying to make a character fit within your corporate structure, that character is neutered and no one will like it. And the funny thing is corporations are antithetical to great characters, because every great character, whether it's Luke, Han, Leia, R2, 3PO, they're all anti-corporation, all of them. And yet Disney is trying to make pablum that's basically baby food that everybody can ingest. And in doing so, I get why they're doing it, but they're undercutting their own franchise. The Book of Boba Fett was one of the most, I mean, I would say their entire sequel series was incredibly damaging to the franchise, but the Book of Boba Fett might be 7 hours of the most damaging. Pick your franchise, pick your corporately held company in the last 100 years. And people say, Rob, that's hyperbole. No. I would say the Book of Boba Fett was more damaging to the Star Wars franchise than anything that we've received in the last 42 years. And I say that because it was squandered potential. And the people that made it have made everyone who loved what they did on Mandalorian look at them and go, are you fucking kidding me? You have carte blanche to give us whatever you want, and this is what you gave us? Some ridiculously muddled bullshit? And the question is, you have all the resources in the world, and this is what you gave us? And the question is, why? How did you get? You have everything you need. You have all the time, all the script time. And this is what you gave us? You have Boba Fett running around a kitchen chasing a ridiculous droid, picking a
Kitchen
droid up,
capers.
going, I am Boba Fett. Like, I looked at this and I'm like, we have Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. We have The Queen's Gambit. We have Ozark season 4. We have Peacemaker. We have so many great TV shows, and this, you are giving us infantilized, ridiculous Star Wars that undercuts the entire mystique of a character that people have loved for 42 years. You have the easiest job in the world. Here's the job. He says nothing. Why do you have him take his helmet off? I understand. He says nothing. Nothing. Have him say nothing. He's worth a lot to me alive. Great. Terrific. And yet, you're watching the most woefully plotted, horribly written shit. And I think what's really interesting about all these franchises is we all look at them and go, why aren't they great? Like, shouldn't they be? Shouldn't they be great? We have.
You know what I also found very ironic, Robert, was that the one time that Boba seemed like he was going to be provoked by the Bane character, I guess since it's a spoiler, it looks like he's going to take action. And Fennec says for the first time, no, pick your moment. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the last episode. This is the moment. Like, this is a good time to do this right now. Go ahead and do it. And this was the time that she tells him to hold back. And I thought to myself, you know, I was equally shocked at the end when he says, do you think we really should be doing this? Should we be rulers now? Should we be doing this after all those episodes of why and how he intends to do this? Now he's having doubts about all that. Like, what was the purpose of all this?
Well, look, I mean, I don't want to consider what's interesting is I think any Star Wars fan, if we were given, like you and I, if we had 3 hours to look at anyone, pick your favorite episode, we could sit there and go, we could fix it in 3 hours.
Oh, yes.
And what I can't stand, what I hate, is my favorite franchises have been given over to talented people. They're not untalented. But what I expect with the amount of money they're making, you guys are delivering horribly plotted material that we could fix in a lunch meeting. And people are like, well, Rob, that's very arrogant of you to say. I'm like, no, you know what? I might not have the credibility because I haven't had the commercial success, but you know what? I've been a story analyst professionally for a long time. And I'd get in there and go, these scripts are bad. If you have Boba Fett walking up to a teenage gang on scooters going, you should come work for me. Why? Why should they? You don't even know them. And there's no moment in your show where you're actually showing them what you know that they don't. And it makes no sense. And you watch this and you're like, it's so maddening. And I think that one of the difficult things about living today is that we as fans, we are watching all of our shows that we love so much, which, by the way, are not hard to figure out. And we're watching people that are very well off, and they're making our shows that we love, and they're making them horribly. And we have no recourse. We can't do anything. And we're like, and we all look, and people are like, you guys are toxic fans. And I'm like, no. I just can't believe how stupid and untalented the writers who are now custodians of these 50-year-old franchises. Like, why is Akiva Goldsman writing Star Trek? Well, because being involved with Secret Hideout means he makes a lot of money. He doesn't care whether it's good or not. He's like, I need to get paid. And by the way, it's a business. It ain't show friends, it's show business. But I would say that franchises like Star Wars have lasted. Your Razor Crest You spent $400 and waited 2 years to get it?
Yes. And they blew it up.
Yeah, they blew it up. But look at that. Look at that. And that's a product of Disney. And it's amazing. It's an amazing product. And they had 26,000 people pay them $400. That is not an insubstantial amount of money.
No, it's not. It's a lot.
Yeah, and it's awesome. But the question is, like, why is it that Razor Crest, look at that. That Razor Crest has more detail and more thought put into it than certainly all 7 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. And that's a product that was made by a licensee. I mean, look at that. Even what you're showing me right now. Look at the metallic paints and the intakes of those engines. Look at all that. It's amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Why is it that the people that are writing Book of Boba Fett cannot dry brush or whatever make their shit look as good as that does? That's what I don't get.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
I know. S-Beam says, he sends a super chat. S-Beam, thank you so much. Baruz Herulev sends in, I hope I got that right, sends in a super chat and says, hey, Rob, I know this show is not on topic. Is any of our shows on topic? I don't know.
No.
But I wanted Urm's quick thoughts on Boba Episode 7. I agree with what you said on John's show, such a waste, but I'd love to know what Urm thought.
Yes, I thought that there were for episode 7, honestly, I have notes here.
No wrong answers.
Honestly, I think that they were trying. It's a particular episode that is crammed with so many things.
Sure.
And this, it almost goes overboard in a sense, but it doesn't wrap up Boba's story. I'm still left feeling very like he's hidden the truth from me. I feel like he hasn't disclosed his the way he actually feels. I don't feel like we actually got the true story of Boba. I feel like we got, sort of like a stylized version of what they wanted to deliver to us, but we still don't know how he feels. We haven't sort of gotten into what drives him and the passion. And I was not convinced that his purpose for taking over the underworld was because of how, he felt that he had to, go on his own and get a job on his own and not have anything to do with these, kind of mean and nasty people who are hiring him. I wasn't convinced of it. The other thing that's also very interesting about all this is that I think that if they had prepared us and said from the very beginning, like they left us with that end credit scene from The Mandalorian, and we'd been holding on to that. And, they had then gone ahead and said, look, the story, he's not violent in this thing. This is him redeeming himself. He's giving up violence. Then we would have known. Like, we wouldn't have gone into this thinking that we were going to get a lot of aggressive violence.
Right.
But even if they had done that, given what we saw in episodes 1 through 4, it still fell short of what they were trying to do. And the reason why is because every person has to have something they believe in with a passion. And he was passionless. His heart was not in it. Luke kind of kept saying that Grogu's heart wasn't in being trained as a Jedi Master at that point. Well, Boba's heart didn't feel like it was in this thing. Like, this fight was that important to him. And I kept thinking, well, what has he really got to lose if he doesn't do this? Is there something at stake? Is something going to happen if it doesn't work out? Does he just go off world and, hang out and that's it? There had to be something else he was fighting for. It couldn't just be like, well, I've decided that I'm going to take over the underworld. So I thought maybe there would be some kind of reveal where perhaps there was a person he was looking for, or something that he was ashamed that he had done. Or perhaps he even thought, it's time for the spice thing to stop, and this is the reason why. But we weren't given that reason, and we still didn't get that convincing motivation for me. So I felt very unfulfilled in his journey, and it still feels very unfulfilling for
I,
me.
I look. Here's the funny thing. I don't think there's an entertainment franchise more beloved than Star Wars. We all want to love it. All of it. And when something happens that is unfulfilling, we all immediately we excuse it. We're like, but this stuff.
I don't like to be left unsatisfied, Robert.
I mean, I've been doing it since 1983. I'm like, how can Return of the Jedi be this bad? People are like, what? No, it's bad. I'm sorry. It was my first Star Wars movie. Look, man. I saw Empire 26 times in the theater, and when I saw Jedi, I'm like, it was the first time I realized that the people that control this franchise, George Lucas, does not understand why it's great. He doesn't get it. And by the way, I'll say it. He doesn't. He doesn't get it. And if you read Rinzer's books about the making of Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi, Lucas hated Empire because it almost broke him. And whatever. I mean, it's fine. But if you know George Lucas, he's no great visionary. He's a nerd. He's like, I'm gonna cruise Modesto's main boulevard, and I love George Lucas. I loved THX 113. It's all great.
Oh yeah, that was a great film.
He's a nerd, and Star Wars was the last. If you asked George Lucas in 1977, if you were on that beach with him and Steven Spielberg, like, I don't know, Steven, I don't know. You think it's gonna be what's gonna happen? It could be Steven would be like, no, George, it's gonna be great. George Lucas is the ultimate nerd that was given the keys of the kingdom, and he's a guy that he just wanted to make documentary films. And why are you bothering me? Because you made $400 million in the greatest franchise ever. I'll just sell it to you for $4 billion. Okay, great. But then we make stuff that's not so good and no one likes it, so can you help us? Well, you bought it from me. I'm not gonna. No. I mean, it's such a weird place to be in. I mean, like, my God, the least amount of critical acumen put to anything is with Star Wars. I mean, people will never criticize it. They will not. And it's so frustrating. It's, if it's not good, it's not good.
Look, I like, as a woman, I like to be satisfied. I don't like to be left unsatisfied.
Right.
And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
And I think a lot of men felt the same way. I think a lot of men watched the show and they were like, I'm not satisfied. And we all know what it feels like to be unsatisfied. I don't like that.
Hang on. I just want to point out, since I was 16, I've read a lot of books. I made sure. Satisfaction's always been important to me.
Robert.
From a storytelling standpoint, you understand.
Yes.
But please continue.
Yes. And the other thing I was going to say is that I felt that, I honestly felt even more conflicted when Grogu showed up, because as I said before, I wasn't ready for Grogu to come back just now. It was too soon in the story.
Oh man, was too soon. It was so, and by the way, it was so pandering. And even Luke's training he was a dick. Like, I'm looking at Luke going, I mean, what was really interesting was that you're on a planet where it's very, foliage is everywhere. That planet was the living force. Everything on that planet, Grogu should have been in tune with the entire ecology of the system. Like, and Luke should have been like, you know what? If on Tatooine it was once a verdant, lush world, and the Force was stripped from that planet, here's the thing: Tatooine is a planet that the Force is not on, and that should be the whole point of it. Is that even if you're a Jedi, there is no, because it's a destroyed world, and Luke is building the Jedi Temple on a planet that is lush with the Force. And the people that write the show don't even think about that. Even Dave Filoni. Well, I've talked to George Lucas. I love Dave Filoni, but I'm like, dude, Tatooine is a world where there is Luke's like the Force, and he's putting on, in Star Wars, his lightsaber is only, you just turn it on. You can't feel it. It's not a mistake that it's not until the Millennium Falcon when he has a blast shield down that he's training, because Tatooine does not have the Force on it. It is, if there's a bright center to the universe, this planet is where it's the furthest from. The Force does not work on Tatooine. And they need to say that. They need to be like, this planet used to be lush with the Force, but whatever happened, it was wiped clean. This is a Force-less planet. And what I don't understand is, that might be my own thing, but wouldn't that be cool? Like in the Star Wars universe, the fact that a planet can be scrubbed of the Force, and that's why Tatooine has become, if there's a bright center to the universe, this planet is the furthest that it's far from. Why? Because the Force is dead here. Luke doesn't know that.
I hated that they kept hinting and mentioning that Tatooine had water. It was a lush planet, and then Boba even said, "Well, I grew up on a planet that was filled with water," and I almost wondered. I said, "Oh my God, are they going to do something? Is something going to happen on Tatooine? Is that the motivation for what's happening in the story? Is the water going to return?" No. So I felt underwhelmed by the Boba Fett part, but overwhelmed with Grogu returning so soon. So I'm very conflicted by this whole thing.
I mean, look, we all want to love it. I mean, I don't think there's another show that people want to love more than, whether it's The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett. We want to love it. I mean, my God, we want to love it. And the fact that we don't, and they're like, well, you guys expect too much. I'm like, no, you've made too little. And it's so hang on. There are people that have written in, and I have to.
Yes, I'm sorry. More super chats.
Yes. So Chad Joyce says, many say it's all about the character and the story, but what of Eraserhead? 2001, Beyond the Black Rainbow, maybe story and characters, not always the end all be all. Well, okay, Chad. You're bringing up very anomalous films. Whether you're dealing with Beyond the Black Rainbow, which, by the way, I own on Blu-ray, or Eraserhead, which, I also own on Blu-ray. Those are transgressive art films. They are not part of the mainstream. And by the way, I grew up loving those movies. I own those movies. But the problem is, what I would like to say is that in this day and age, going to see those movies used to be par for the course. Like all my friends in high school, if something like Eraserhead was, Beyond the Black Rainbow came out in the last 10 years, but if it had come out in the 80s, we would have gone to see that in some far-flung, like the Grand Illusion. We would have gone to see that in a theater.
Absolutely.
And whether it's Titane, like my friends in high school and junior high, we were the film punk rockers. We would go see anything transgressive. We would go see anything that was fucked up that our parents didn't want us to see. I mean, it was a badge of honor. And at the same time, these were very erudite, very sophisticated films. So I would like to think that we were educated. Like we would not go into a theater that was showing something R-rated or NC-17 rated and blow up firecrackers, because that would be lame. What would be better is if we sat and took it, like watched these films and be like, oh my God. My parents had no idea the shit I was watching. I mean, I remember. But
they did take you to see Alien, though, or was it your grandmother who took you?
My grandfather, and I had to coerce him. And I feel, oh my God, I feel terrible. I mean, so for those of you who don't know, so 1979, April, my grandfather, the nicest man in the world, so sweet. Nobody would take me to see Alien. It was R-rated. I wasn't 12 yet. I want to say it was April of 79. I turned 12 in May of 79. And my grandfather was, my step grandmother had passed away, and my grandfather was lonely, and we went out every Sunday, and no one would take me to see Alien because it was rated R. I was like, Grandpa, there's this movie I want to see. He was like, well, really, Rob? Bobby, what do you want to see? I'm like, well, Grandpa, it's called Alien. My grandfather he didn't give a shit about, he didn't know what ratings were. And he's like, well, Alien, what's it about? I'm like, well, it's about an alien. And my grandfather's like, okay, well, let's go. And so this is the same theater. It's the UA 150. It's the same theater I had seen Star Wars in, but I would then subsequently watch Empire Strikes Back 26 times. And I was sitting in the same place. And my grandfather, I was 12, my sister was 9, and my grandfather had just lost his second wife. Or no, he was just getting married to his second wife. And I am fucking terrified. I am more scared than I've ever been. I finally had to get up and go to the bathroom because I thought I was going to throw up. Not because it was disgusting. I love the disgustingness because I was so tense. And my grandfather was just like watching. He said nothing. And I went to the bathroom. My sister followed me and she's like, this is too scary. This is too scary. I'm like, no, we're going to go back in. I just have to pee. I didn't really have to, but I did. And I come back. I sit down just in time to see the chest burster come out of Kane's chest. And then my grandfather did this. He went, that was it. He just went, I was like, wow, I'd never seen him do that. And he didn't say anything. He just jumped up and down. And I'm like, fuck. I made my grandfather like have a weird spasm. It was not good. It was not good. So anyway. And then when it was over, I'm like, my t-shirt was soaked. My pants were soaked. I'm like, it was like an ordeal, and I was like, Grandpa, did you like the movie? And he goes, it was pretty good. That's all he said. It was pretty good. That was all I got from him. I'm like, I'm fucking sweating like a pig. My t-shirt's soaking. I'm like terrified. I'm like, my grandfather was like, it was pretty good. And I'm like, what the fuck movies are you watching? Like, come on, Grandpa. Like, what the hell, man? And it was pretty good. I'm like, that's it? That's all I got from him? And then, like, 2 years later, one night we were having, like, some Thanksgiving dinner. Somebody brought up Alien. Somebody said something. My grandfather, non sequitur, he goes, he's thinking, because he never talked to anybody about his feelings or whatever. He went, Alien. That was pretty good. And I was like, oh my God, my grandfather, like he's now like 87 or whatever. I bamboozled him. And he went and saw it. It was all good. So,
well, we have a member chat, I guess, from S-Beam, Robert.
Well, lay it on us.
It says S-Beam, a member for 17 months, friend of the channel. The finale of the Book of Boba Fett was enjoyable, but it still gives more question than answers.
Agreed.
And that's always a shitty way to end a show. Quote, we're not made for this. Then why the hell did you do it? Come on, Favreau. What the fuck?
Well, S-Beam is a very smart guy, and he's a very talented guy. He's not wrong. I mean, he's not wrong. It's not good. I mean, I don't get. What's funny is, as somebody who has made films myself, and admittedly not with the commercial success of other people, but I've still sat in an edit bay where I look at every cut, going, okay, does this work? And when I watch Book of Boba Fett, that show should have been the most awesome show ever made. There shouldn't have been. Yeah. Like you've got, and by the way, I'll flat out say it. If I was given an afternoon to come up with the Book of Boba Fett, I would have called you. I would say, hey, we have 4 hours to come up with 7 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. We have to break it down. I know that you and I could do that. You know what would happen?
Yes.
We would have 4 hours to do it. In 3 hours, we would have been done. And then we would have 4 hours to refine all these things. And on episode 8 or hour 8, we would have presented our findings to Disney, and they're like, "This is great. Let's make this."
Absolutely.
And watching this show, I watched Book of Boba Fett the whole time. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I have never seen such a drastic or ill-fated or deconstruction of an incredible character than, like, the Book of Boba Fett is actually an egregious crime against great storytelling. They've taken a character introduced 42 years ago, and they've destroyed that character in 7 hours. And we're all of us are, and by the way, Tamora Morrison did the best he could. I don't hate him. He was great. But he had to do what he was given to do.
Yes.
And I have never seen a show that is so monumentally stupid and infantilized as the Book of Boba Fett. And it's baffling to me. Why?
Yeah, and I thought the series was going to be, and I've said this several times, I thought the series was going to be about the book that Jango Fett left to Boba Fett that had instructions of what to do as a bounty hunter in the galaxy.
Wow, wouldn't that have been a great every episode's somebody turns the pages and reads the I mean
that to me would make total sense, that we would be getting something that would have these secrets, or the book actually exists. I don't know if there's a physical book, but can you imagine hearing Jango's voice? It'd be the same voice, but hearing Jango's voice saying, "Boba, when you go to the such and such place, always make sure to look out for," it could have been so unbelievably crazy cool. And it wouldn't even have had to dominate the whole episode. We just needed enough to get us to the next step where we were interested in continuing finding out more about why this transition is happening to Boba Fett now. Could have been.
And we're all asking those questions, like, what the fuck? Chad Joyce says, many say it's all about the story and character. Oh, I already asked that, but what of Eraserhead? Yes.
What about Beirut's?
Yeah, Beirut's Herles. That's a great name, by the way. I wanted Boba to shoot the biker squad when they said, "We are staying." What the fuck? This gives me no doubt they will destroy Obi-Wan as well. Well, Baruz, I would say this. I know I shouldn't say this. Hope springs eternal. I think Deborah Chow is directing. It's a whole different team of people. And you have Ewan McGregor signing on. I don't think he would sign on if it wasn't great. That's just me projecting. But I hope it's going to be great. I think the Book of Boba Fett closed the door for me on the Star Wars franchise. Now, that's not to say I won't open it again. But I thought the Book of Boba Fett was the ultimate example of what Disney's influence has done to what is essentially an independent film trope. George Lucas was an indie filmmaker, and even though Star Wars became what it became, the prequel trilogies was one guy, and his whole thing about democracy is amazing. And wow, modern Star Wars is a corporate pablum product, and it's really fucking bad. And again, it proves that the corporate structure is antithetical to great storytelling. Just saying. Adrian Barraza says, I hear how Star Wars shrinks its own universe by telling new stories tied to the characters of the past, which I do agree with, but disagree. Would you love to see a Vader anthology film? Your thoughts? Honestly, Adrian, I don't. Darth Vader's story began and ended. I do not need to see his time being a Sith Lord. You know, we've seen him become Darth Vader, which was lame. I as much as I love Vader, look, you can tell any stories you want, but at the end of the day, you're treading water. That's all it is. And Darth Vader's story began and ended. It's ended. We saw the end of it. And, you know, to watch, who doesn't, he's a great character. He looks great. Who doesn't want to see him wreck shop? But at the end of the day, Darth Vader, we saw him live, we saw him die. Who cares? And the problem with Star Wars is we love the universe that we've already seen. The last Star, it's like, well, let's talk about stealing from the Death Star, the plans. Great. We have not seen anything new. And when we do see it, like the First Order, where did they come from? Ultimately, it's like, oh, Palpatine. Wait, what? That's frustrating. Anyway.
Did you read the 200-watt studio one, Robert? I can't remember.
No. 200 Studio says, book of fill in the blank should be about what the character experienced. Explain how episode 5 and 6 fit into the book of Boba Fett. What the fuck? Dude, I mean, look, there is not a franchise that exists in the world anywhere like Star Wars. We all want to love it. All of us. We all love it. We all love the iconography. I still want to buy those action figures because they're great. I love them. But my God, has a franchise let us down as a storytelling medium? I mean, honest to God, the prequel trilogies, while I think they're bad movies, they're good Star Wars. They might not be great films, but the story they're telling is pretty amazing. And yet,
and he did take chances. There's no doubt about it. He took few risks here and there, you know, but they were risks that he was willing to take as the creator.
Yeah. Listen.
You're like, yeah.
No, but you're absolutely right. It's absolutely you're 100% right. And we all love this. And what's so strange is that Star Wars, as a storytelling medium, has, because of their corporate minders, I've never seen a storytelling device. Star Wars is cocaine. And when you snort up a fatty rail off the ass of a beautiful hooker, when you get that jolt of storytelling goodness, that's what you want. And the fact is, we're getting cocaine that isn't cocaine. We're getting powdered sugar at a Farrell's or a Chuck E. Cheese's that is on a piece of pizza that is cold and shapeless. I mean, we're not getting the jolt that we want, and yet all the iconography. Oh my God, there's a Slave One. We get one little dopamine hit. Star Wars should be a great fatty rail of the greatest cocaine you've ever had, and you're like, you hoover that up and you snort it up and you're like, oh, and you get, and it's pure. It's not something that you're like, oh my God, there's phenol or baby powder. I'm talking uncut Peruvian flake. Star Wars is it's just, when you get it into your system, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah,
and
when it's done right.
It used to be that way. And we live in a world where we have spent we spent 23 years. More so than Star Trek. We've spent 23 years with compromised Star Wars, where we as fans have been apologizing for the universe. And it's frustrating. It is
frustrating. And I did want to mention to you, Robert, that I was equally frustrated in the last episode that I saw of The Next Generation. I'm sorry, Star Trek Discovery. Excuse me. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh, please bring it on.
Well, honestly, Robert, people go to casinos and it's supposed to be a fun time. But I've never seen such a dour, sad, depressing hand of poker in my, years of life. Even I just wanted to just end it all by just, telling them to just, pull the plug. It's done. The convenience of that last episode was ridiculous.
God bless
And
you.
I'm sorry, but it was just an absolute, disappointment in not just the writing, but the performances in it.
Oh.
And, it just was so disappointing. At least some of the other episodes, they had some sort of construction of a story, but this one was really just thrown together. And I've never seen that blatantly done so boldly in the series.
And
so
how much money? I mean, look, I don't want to make this about how much I hate modern Star Trek, but modern Star Trek to me is the perfect example of just how awful corporate storytelling has become. And it's being made by people that have a business decision to make as much Star Trek as they can. And they every utterance that comes out of those creators, out of their mouths, is pandering to a fan base that they've read about. It's not based on anything in reality. And Star Trek Discovery, I mean, look, I don't begrudge anyone that loves it. But I would say this. It's horrible storytelling, and the lessons that it is teaching our modern age fans is anathema to surviving in the real world. Modern Star Trek is telling you something that will get you killed. It will get you killed. Those people in that show the only reason they're still alive is because the writers said they have to be alive. None of them would have survived through the 4th season. Modern Star Trek is a clear and present danger to our intellectual society. I'm just saying. And the last episode is not, you're not wrong.
You can really feel the absence of Tilly, and I didn't think I was going to experience that in the show. It is very different without her being there. And one can argue that perhaps she was the breakout character of the show, in a show that had so many deficiencies, but still perhaps the breakout star of the show.
Maybe. I mean, listen, can I ask you to hold the fort for a minute?
Yes, certainly.
I mean, I want you are now in the show. And
you are coming back, right, Robert?
Oh, I'm coming back. Don't worry. I'm coming back.
So then I'm going to have to put in my Razor Crest into the
Yes, I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, so many of you have seen my video on my Razor Crest when I first got it. And here it is again for those of you who are watching. I love this Razor Crest, and anybody who's gotten, I know some of you have ordered the Razor Crest as well. So I'm really curious as to what you think about the Razor Crest if you have it at home. But it's heavier than what I thought it would be. The color is so beautiful on this. It looks exactly the way it looked like in the show. I'm so pleased with it. And there are so many things about it, so many details that I haven't even had a chance to look at, over the past few days. It's just so remarkably cool. And I just am really pleased as punch with it. I think any of you who get it are going to love it. You can see how big it is. It's a lot bigger than what I thought it was going to be. And although I had read the specs and I knew how large this ship was going to be, I was very surprised when I received it exactly how big it was. I just love it. And I'm just put it down because it's actually heavy. And some of you guys out in the chat have been talking, and I did want to say that I am reading what you're saying. Yes, there is a Let's Get Physical media tomorrow. I believe it's I'm going to confirm the time with Robert, I think. But yes, there is a Let's Get Physical media tomorrow. There may also be a Zoom call tomorrow that Robert is going to be doing as well. And some of you are saying things like, people are asking, so is Star Wars in the same universe as Dune? I don't believe so. We also have someone asking where Lizzie Venus, that the Zalmic is telling Lizzie that the spice was a nod. I thought they could have explored the spice a little bit more and told us exactly what they were operating. Obviously they had a bad version of the spice, but from what I've been told to the lore, that spice is sold throughout the galaxy, and it's not all horrible spice, and it has multiple uses. And I think that they could have gone a little bit further with that, in my opinion. But it is something to think about. And let's see. Bill Barkley says, "Hi guys. By the way, I've watched Uncharted. It's all right. Also saw Death on the Nile, and it was mediocre." They've been making a big deal about this Death on the Nile movie. I would say also check out Red Notice. That was also a very good film. And if you haven't seen it, if you just want to be able to enjoy yourself with some popcorn and kind of enjoy what's going on, the ensemble between Johnson and Godot and Reynolds is amazing. So, hello, Robert. Welcome
Hello.
back.
I have to say, I'm so late walking the dogs.
Yes, I know.
I need to end the show.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry I kept you on here.
No, it's amazing.
But there's another super chat, Robert, from 200 Watt Studio.
Yes, totally agree, Rob. Imagine you were reading a book about Chernobyl, and the 2 chapters were Meanwhile on the Moon. Yes, you'd think the binder made a mistake. I agree. I mean, look. I'm a crime thriller fanatic. Even Lee Child's Jack Reacher books. Or Reacher. Those books are great.
Those are incredible books.
I love them, and
so good.
I'm like, the Boba Fett books should be like. I looked at Reacher. I'm like, that's the Boba Fett show.
Yes.
And it's so frustrating. God. Well, anyway.
Jedi Tom, yes, I was disappointed that they destroyed the Razor Crest on the show.
But that's a great thing you have. Listen, I've got to go walk my crazy dogs because I'm late, an hour and a half. Elizabeth, she's like, "What the hell? We went to walk our dogs 2 hours ago." I have to go walk them. So anyway, everyone, thank you for jumping in. I want to thank our moderators. I want to thank Brian Hepburn, who is here. Thank you. And let's see who else is here. Maybe Tom Jr. Jackson for the great letter you wrote. But
and Darren Seeley was here earlier today.
Oh, Darren Seeley, thank you so much. And I want to thank for being here. I want to thank everyone for supporting the channel via Super Chats and Tips. And by the way, we'll be back for 11 o'clock tomorrow with Dieter Bastian from Saarbrücken, Deutschland for Let's Get Physical Media. I have one disc because I'm trying to buy a house, which is really the most annoying, horrible, awful process ever. But maybe, who knows, there'll be a new Robservatory, or I'll be on the street as a homeless person. We'll see. But my God, thanks for jumping in tonight.
Yes,
Fantastic.
And you also have one more member chat. It's a member for 4 months.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Anyone who's going to be a member before the Super Bowl tomorrow, after Let's Get Physical Media from 1:30 to 3, you can be a member of this channel for $1 a month. And we do have every other week a membership chat. And tomorrow, thanks to Roberto Suarez, we will have a Zoom chat for all members. You can ask me anything. You can skewer me. You can say horrible things about me. Or you can just tell me about how your kids are doing, whatever. They're, aren't they fun?
They're wonderful. Please check them out. And Joseph Michael, who's a member for 4 months, a PGS hero, he's asking you, Robert, what are your thoughts on POC characters being featured in the new Lord of the Rings series?
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I was in a show about this. Okay. This is a very Here's the thing about Lord of the Rings. I don't care what color people are. I don't care what gender they are. If you want me to call you something that I wouldn't normally call you, tell me. I'm a polite person. But there is a reality in the world. And I will say this. In 2018, 4 years ago, I was afforded the opportunity to go to South Korea to work on a documentary. Other than on an American military base, I didn't see anyone that looked like me. Everywhere I went in South Korea, every store, people looked at me like, oh my God, who is this person? I mean, I was an anomaly. I was the only white dude walking around in Seoul, in this particular part of Seoul. And there are tourists and whatever, but the fact is I walked into stores. Now, I don't think anyone in Seoul is bitching and moaning and complaining about lack of diversity. It's just that's what Korea is. You know, the reality of Korea is it's not very racially diverse. That's a fact. That's actually, I was there, I saw it. And I didn't sit there and go, God damn it, what Korea needs is racial diversity. I'm not going to tell. The fact is, Korea is what it is. You can't. So Middle Earth is a fictional place that is meant to be a stand-in for the England that J.R.R. Tolkien grew up in.
Right.
And the entirety of Middle Earth is based on England at the time that Tolkien lived, beginning before World War I and post-World War I into World War II. And Tolkien's world at that time was what it was. He wanted to preserve, he hoped that the agrarian nature of the Shire or whatever, that's what he wanted to preserve. That's what England was at that point in time when he was writing it. And my whole thing about this is like, the idea that you want to shoehorn, I saw a black woman playing a dwarf. I don't care that a black woman is playing a dwarf. What I ask myself is, where's her fucking beard? I mean, honestly, the dwarves, the female dwarves, have facial hair and all this. I'm like, you know, you can do what you want, but the fact is that Lord of the Rings was written about a place in the world that was specifically to a particular period of time and all this. Do what you want. I don't care. You want to change the elves, fine. But the thing is, does it serve the story that Tolkien himself was trying to tell? Tolkien wasn't a racist. Tolkien wasn't somebody that deserves derision. Tolkien was a guy that was writing about the world he knew. He came back from World War I. He saw trench warfare. He saw Europe being decimated by horrible, awful shit. And now everyone's like, well, we have to put these people of... No, in Tolkien's world, that wasn't the case. And you can put whatever you want. I don't care if you make great characters and a great story. But you know what? When I'm being shown elves that are different colors than Tolkien, he was very specific. Tolkien was very, very specific. And when I watch his stuff, I'm like, you know what? You people didn't care. You not only did you not care what he wrote, you didn't understand what he wrote. And your idea of being diverse is fine, but the whole point of Lord of the Rings is Tolkien was writing about a world that was being destroyed. And you know what? It was destroyed. And the fact is, if you want to try and tell a story about now, you miss the point. Middle Earth, even though they defeated Sauron, Middle Earth was wrecked. Boris Johnson's post-Brexit UK is the end. It exemplifies the end of Lord of the Rings. And if you want to sit there and go, well, Rob, I mean, do you feel... Look, man, I don't feel anything. I read his story. England itself destroyed what Tolkien wrote. It has nothing to do with race or color or creed. What it has to do with is a way of life that was destroyed. Whether you think it's good or not, it's immaterial. It's what Tolkien wrote. That was what he wanted to do. I am not here to tell you, well, do you know, Tolkien was a racist. He wasn't a racist. He wrote about the world he knew. He didn't, and that was it. It was like, the fact is, what I can't stand is the fact that anyone would adapt Tolkien's work without an understanding of what he was writing about. and to decide, well, you're going to bring a Latino elf in, really? And I would say that were there Latino, people in the UK when Tolkien was writing Lord of the Rings, and were there? And I don't have a problem with that, but it seems a little incongruous because there just weren't those kinds of people there. They barely drink tequila in the UK now. They don't know shit about Latino culture. I wish they did, but they don't. And to sit there and go, well, we're going to make this elf Latino. Great. You guys go right ahead. You do what you want, and you'll reap the benefits. I mean, it's whatever you want. Just tell me a good story. I don't give a fuck. Tell me a great story.
To be honest, Robert, I've seen some of the photographs from that production, and it looks more like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Chronicles of Narnia, rather than Lord of the Rings to me.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we now live in a world where people are they're allowing current political currents to supersede the stories they're telling. Let me tell you something. Stories need to be timeless. Star Trek has now become a product of today. When you have people in the 32nd century talking about their pronouns, like, you failed as storytellers. 1,000 years from now, nobody will care. We'll be a multi-species. You'll be people intermarrying. I would marry a hentai demoness. 1,000 years from now, there is such a monumental failure of imagination in the fantasy work that we're getting, and it's really depressing because all of the people that are writing science fiction, fantasy, and horror TV shows or movies have not read enough science fiction, fantasy, and horror. They're all literary genres. These people are talentless. They have no legitimacy, and the stuff they're writing is god awful. Star Trek Discovery is some of the worst, call it science fiction. It's terrible. And it's not just me going, well, I'm not just shouting at clouds. I'm like, no. From a science fiction standpoint, it's just bad writing. And it shouldn't be. It should be the best science fiction writing ever. Because they have all the money to do whatever they want. All they have to do is write good. Just write good. And they don't. That's the cheapest part of the whole process. And the horrible shit they're writing has to be, that becomes incredibly expensive. Wait, where am I? I have to go walk the dogs. I have to go. We have to end this show.
Yes. Yes. And guys, you can find me on my channel here, of course, on the Burnettwork always, but you can find me on my YouTube channel, Positive Fandom, which is 2 words. On Twitch, it's 1 word, where I do reviews and live streams and more. On Monday nights, you can find me on Toxic Femininity with Lorraine Creole. On Wednesdays and Thursdays,
who I love, by the way. Love them both.
Yes, she is wonderful, isn't she? On Wednesdays and Thursdays, sometimes you can find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, especially on Say What and on Uncivilized Scoundrels. On Friday afternoons at 12 p.m. Eastern, you can find me on Midnight's Edge in the Morning, streaming with Tom, Andre, and Cameron Pasha. On Friday nights, you can find me here on the Burnettwork, and hopefully my PGS All-Stars and PGS review shows will be airing soon on the Burnettwork. And on Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me on my Sunday Brunch, my live show, where I do all the parlay and entertainment. And I hope to see you guys there.
My God, watch every one of those shows. Fantastic. Darth Plato, by the way, says, in the first Punic War, the Carthaginians used an army against the Romans that was quite diverse. When a Carthaginian commander stood up to speak, 24 others stood up afterwards to translate in all of those different languages. Skin color is skin deep. Well, Darth Plato, yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, I've always said this. There is one race on this planet. One race. I mean, there's a lot of races of other, but for our species, call it what you want. There's one race, the human race. And depending on where you're standing on this planet, you can be a racist motherfucker all you want. But I guarantee if you're standing in the Congo and if you're looking to be a white supremacist, it is not going to work out for you well. It ain't. And by the way, I was in South Korea. Loved it. I loved being there. But if you're going to talk about white power or critical race theory, they're going to be like, we fucking hate the Japanese and the Chinese. And you're going to be like, wait, what? 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 Well, there was the rape of Nanking. Like, wait, what? I mean, it is so crazy that we live in a world where in this country, people want to talk about critical race theory that only deals with one race. It's so bizarre. I'm like, really? Like, apparently buy a passport. Your critical race theory will crumble if you travel around the world. Because we're all racist fucks for the rest of our lives. But anyway, that's all fine. That is not what we want to talk about. Show me that Razor Crest one more time.
Yes, Robert, it's my pleasure.
I knew it would be.
The HasLab Razor Crest, guys.
God damn, girl. Look at how good that looks. Bob. So good. Well, everyone, on that note, this Robservations episode number 888 is going to come to an end. And I want to thank my co-host for being here. I want to thank all of you for supporting this channel via super chats and tips. I want to thank everyone for being members. Tomorrow, by the way, if you are a member, you can be a member for this channel, $1 a month, whatever. We will be having tomorrow, I think it's at 1:30 in the afternoon, a member call. People come in, we chat. It's very fun. Enjoy that. And of course, tomorrow, Dieter Bastian from Saarbrücken, Deutschland, and I will be here for Let's Get Physical Media beginning at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So, God, look at you stroke that. It's just,
Someone had said that they noticed that I was stroking it, and I said,
look, man, that's way bigger than anything I can offer you, but man, it looks good. I'm just saying, it looks good. It looks good. My God, look at those engine. Anyway, I can't. Well, I want to thank you for being here. All of you, thank you. And I would say this. Remember, say it with me now. Every person you meet
has a story to tell
that you
have never heard before. And all you have to do is listen.
Indeed. Thank you all very much for being here. And I will see you in mere hours. And so you'll see where?
10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Positive Fandom for my Sunday brunch show.
Yes, like, subscribe. Positive Fandom on YouTube. What are you waiting for? Do it. Do it now.